Immortal Cultivation begins with gaining a superhuman constitution. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1 Purple Source Roulette. Mount Tai, the most majestic of the 5 sacred mountains and the center of all other mountains, is also known as Taizong. Emperors throughout history held their Fenshin ceremonies here, boasting the remarkable spectacle of nature's wonders, yin and yang dividing dusk and dawn. Su Poman and 3 roommates took advantage of the May Day holiday to climb Mount Tai. To witness the spectacular sunrise, they set out at night, aiming to reach Sun Viewing Peak before dawn. They chatted and laughed along the way, exhausted, but time flew by. After a long trek, they finally reached Sun Viewing Peak in time. Perhaps due to the May Day holiday, the summit was already packed when they arrived, making it impossible to find a suitable viewing spot. Encouraged by their roommate, Li Zuz, the 4 of them laboriously climbed up another steep cliff. The night breeze blew, and a nearby wooden sign reading "No visitors allowed" swayed slightly, clacking against its chains with a continuous clacking sound. Soon, a streak of orange appeared on the horizon, gradually tinting the sea of clouds a vibrant orange. Under the pitch-black night sky, amidst the swirling mountain mist, a crimson sun slowly rose. Thrilled by this breathtaking spectacle, Zhang Huang, standing nearby, couldn't help but roar. "Ah, I'm Zhang Huang, I'm Li Zuz." Hearing the shouts, Su Poman also felt a surge of passion. With his hands spread wide to his lips, he shouted towards the rising sun. "I am Su Poman. My English name is Superman, and I'm Superman." Su Poman. Li Zuz suddenly called out from behind, "Manzi, if you're Superman, you'll have to wear your underwear outside from now on." "Hey, ha, sure, Manzi, that's very Superman, right. First things first, Superman's first step is wearing underwear." The others joined in the booing. Su Poman was about to retort when he suddenly saw a flash of purple light from the sea of clouds. The moment he saw it, it was right before his eyes. "Come on," he squeezed his eyes shut, and a vast ball of purple light suddenly exploded. Then his consciousness was immersed in an endless purple glow, surrounded by warmth, as if enveloped by something. Kangayan Continent, Pu State, Southeast Sea. Su Poman dazedly opened his eyes and began to survey his surroundings. The first thing that caught his eye was the endless deep blue ocean, its waves surging one after another, the small boat beneath him rocking with the waves. Where is this? Wasn't I watching the sunrise at Mount Tai? His mind was completely shut down, filled with countless questions. A whiff of the sea wafted into his nostrils, and a passing seabird dropped a piece of guano, which landed on his head with a plop. He touched it and sniffed it. Ugh, what a stinky smell, pa. He slapped himself hard, the searing pain instantly waking him. Isn't this a dream? Damn, Li Zuz, I knew following you would be bad. Although he had no idea what was happening, Su Poman was certain something must have happened atop Mount Tai, leading him to the sea. Could it be that an alien spaceship studied me and then dumped me into the ocean? Su Poman speculated, glancing at the small boat beneath him. The boat was no more than 2 meters long, its mast broken, its sails tumbling down the stern, and its cabin in some unknown way shattered. A tangled net lay beneath the bilge, its craftsmanship shoddy, made from a unique black vine. What era was it in which they used sails instead of diesel engines? These details made Su Poman ponder, a foreboding welling up in his mind. The turbulent waters caused the boat to bob and heave. Su Poman's face paled, and he felt as if he were about to vomit the instant noodles he had eaten atop the mountain. He'd never been on a boat since he was a child, and he'd never expected to get seasick. What the hell is this? Su Poman felt a wave of discomfort. He quickly lay down, leaning against the side of the boat, and slowly closed his eyes. Closing his eyes, he was surprised to see a rudimentary purple wheel, engraved with mysterious patterns. Those patterns, unlike any other script, held a magical power that captivated his attention. A flicker of purple light revealed the wheel's movement. Click, a strange wave emanated from the wheel, and a curtain of light appeared beneath it. Lines of text appeared on the curtain. These characters weren't the familiar Chinese characters he was familiar with, but strangely, he could understand their meaning. Purple origin roulette. Name, Su Poman. Realm, none. Bloodline, ordinary human. Abilities, none. Energy points, 10. Included with purple origin. Note, the minimum draw is 10 energy points. The more energy points you use, the more complete the abilities, magical powers, bloodlines, and cultivation techniques you can draw, and the higher the chance of obtaining stronger abilities. You can draw energy points in different amounts, such as 11, 12, 12.5, 50, or 100. The higher the energy point consumption, the better the roulette rewards. Number available. 1. Click to draw. Current drawing target, Bronze Superman 0%, due to the host's strong desire. Holy crap. Holy crap, Su Poman, who had been groggy, suddenly straightened up, his eyes filled with disbelief, stunned by this sudden scene. Could this be the legendary Golden Finger? Su Poman was overwhelmed with excitement, his seasickness and nausea disappearing in his excitement. Then he looked at the fishing boat, and an idea popped into his head. Could it be that I have traveled through time? However, these details alone could not make him sure of this. After trying to calm down, Su Poman closed his eyes again, and gently touched the words click to extract with his mind. The light screen blurred for a while, and Su Poman saw the strange roulette wheel spinning in a circle, and then a piece of information came into his mind. Searching for the target, establishing a link, extracting ding, extraction successful, obtaining superhuman physique fragments. The body is strengthened to the primary light energy physique, can absorb sunlight energy to make up for the body's physiological needs. No need to eat, normal consumption will not cause hunger throughout the day. No combat power bonus. Su Poman only felt a warm current flowing into his body, and then all the pores all over his body opened up, and his genes and flesh seemed to be transformed by a gentle force. The feeling lasted for several minutes before slowly fading. When he opened his eyes again, the sun overhead suddenly gave him an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Looking up at it no longer glared, but instead brought a strange sense of contentment. Under the sunlight, Su Poman half closed his eyes and quietly savored it. The seasickness had vanished, and the emptiness he'd previously felt from staying up late watching Japanese art films was gradually being satisfied. Gee. This is a fantastic ability. I can bask in the sun without having to eat. That's great. If I were to play some deserted island survival game, I'd definitely win a big prize, or even challenge some prize-winning events. It would be so great. The only shame is that it doesn't increase my combat power. If only I could win Superman's Man of Steel, I wouldn't have to worry about sharks. But it's okay, at least I won't starve to death. Su Poman basked in the comfort of the sunlight, feeling the nutrients he'd previously lacked were being replenished. Lying in the bottom of the cabin, he drifted off to sleep again. A new book is on the way. Readers, please vote and give it a try. Today is a special day. I wish all college entrance examination candidates success in the exam and admission to their favorite universities. Chapter 2 Demonic Turtle. At night, the waves gradually subsided. An enormous moon shone brightly in the night sky, its silvery light shimmering down, making the surface appear shimmering. Occasionally, schools of fish swam past, stirring up tiny waves on the surface. Compared to the turbulent waves of the day, these small waves seemed insignificant. Gululu. Oh. Whoosh. A mingling sound of various strange marine animals. Su Poman slowly awoke. The moment he opened his eyes, he was greeted by the terrifyingly large moon. Oh my god. How can this moon be so huge? Su Poman stared at the strangely large moon, stunned. He recalled moons he had seen before, and a sense of restlessness grew within him. No way. A moon this big doesn't look like Earth. It must be 7 or 8 times the size, Su Poman muttered to himself in amazement. The moonlight bathed his still baby face, casting a luminous glow on his skin. As a college freshman, Su Poman, who had just turned 18, was quite handsome. After a day in the sun, his skin hadn't darkened at all, it actually looked even fairer. If he had a mirror right then, he'd have spent 2 hours admiring it. Just as he was lost in thought, a gigantic creature broke out of the water in the distance. Its massive body, roughly the size of a bungalow, its oval shell covered in green hair. Its massive, inky head tilted its neck toward the moon, occasionally emitting a deep, bullish roar. Such a large sea turtle, Su Poman instinctively picked up his paddle and paddled a few times. Although his biology teacher had told him that sea turtles didn't eat humans, he didn't want to risk a turtle this size. What if it was a spirit? Just as he thought this, as if to confirm his suspicions, a faint white glow seemed to emanate from the giant turtle's snout, blurring the moonlight that fell in front of it. Oh my god, this giant turtle has truly become a spirit, still consuming the essence of moonlight. No, I have to get out of here, Su Poman paddled even harder, his mind racing. Though he hated to admit it, he was certain this place wasn't Earth. Thinking of the golden finger in his mind, he sighed deeply. Not bad, I have the golden finger, so I should be able to get by in this world. While the seas are calm, I'll quickly paddle in one direction and try to find land. Drifting on the sea is dangerous, I might end up being fed to sharks. With his mind made up, Su Poman rowed the boat away from the moon, the oars slapping against the surface as the boat advanced at a remarkably slow pace. After rowing for an indefinite amount of time, the vast expanse of sea remained before him, with not even a single island in sight. Su Poman felt a slight ache in his arms. He threw the oar into the boat and lay flat on the bottom, drifting with the current. As for whether the boat would drift off course, who cares? Now Su Poman wanted nothing more than to lie down and rest. Beneath the night sky, a small boat loomed insignificantly on the sea. As the night deepened, clouds gradually rose, obscuring the moonlight. Su Poman drifted off into a daze. In his dream, he was in the water, and he saw the enormous sea turtle. Its ferocious head was covered in sharp horns, and its mouth was filled with razor-sharp fangs, ready to bite him. Ah, no, Su Poman roared, leaping to his feet, only to be shocked to find he wasn't near the demon turtle. Thank goodness it was just a dream, he sighed, wiping the sweat from his forehead. His face paled. Looking up, he saw the yellow sun in the sky, and a strange sense of peace and security filled his heart. The sunlight streaming down filled his body with energy, and the muscle aches from last night's frantic paddling vanished completely, leaving a warm feeling in his stomach. Then he stood up and gazed into the distance. Seeing no sign of an island or continent, he felt particularly discouraged. Sigh, I don't know how long I'll be drifting on the ocean. I used to watch Robinson Crusoe as a kid, but I never thought I'd find myself drifting on the ocean now. Su Poman gathered his composure, then grabbed the oar and paddled in the sun. Although this primary light energy physique doesn't increase combat power, exercising in the sun gives me a full sense of energy, and my muscles don't ache. The effect is quite strong. If only I could upgrade it. I don't know how to obtain those energy points. Su Poman paddled, closed his eyes, and opened the roulette light curtain. Purple source roulette. Name, Su Poman. Realm, none. Bloodline, primary light energy constitution. Ability, photosynthesis. Energy points, 0. Minimum 10 energy points required for a single draw. Amount available, 0. Click to draw. Current draw target, Bronze Superman 0.01 per mil. 0.01% of Bronze Superman's ability? And that doesn't mean I now possess 0.01% of Superman's strength. I'm probably even less than 0.01% of his true strength. Su Poman's thought of Superman's unparalleled power intensified, a yearning welling up within him. It felt like that favorite game promotion where you get 10 times the diamonds for top-up. Unfortunately, he didn't have any energy points to top up. What on earth are energy points? How do I get them? There's no instruction manual. I guess I'll have to explore on my own. Su Poman paddled diligently, the boat drifting further and further away amidst the waves. It was the 5th day of drifting on the sea. The sunny weather suddenly changed, the sun obscured by thick, dark clouds. The damp, humid air made Su Poman panic. Thunder and lightning roared. Fish emerged from the sea, their mouths open and closed in response to the dark clouds. Soon, a torrential downpour of rain poured down from the thick, dark clouds. The boat quickly filled with water, and Su Poman hurriedly carried a wooden bucket to drain the water. The sharp sea breeze sent a shiver through him. Is this boat going to break apart? He instinctively sensed something was wrong. Su Poman frowned at the dilapidated boat beneath him, then at the gathering waves in the distance. Amidst the raging storm, the boat, alone and helpless, bore the brunt of the force, every inch of it soaked with seawater. To prevent the boat from capsizing, Su Poman, not bothering to drain the water, frantically paddled away from the surging waves. But how could human power rival the might of nature? The monstrous waves were rapidly approaching. The first time he looked back, they were just a distant line. The next time, Su Poman was terrified. The waves, tens of meters high, were crashing down on him, and Su Poman only had time to glare and yell. Damn it! The boat slowly drifted close to the crest of the waves, and then the waves crashed down. There was a loud rumble in his ears, followed by the sound of gurgling water, and then a huge force hit him. Su Poman saw stars and fainted. Please use the recommendation tickets in the hands of the immortal masters and Taoist ancestors to insult me as much as you want. Chapter 3 Adventure on a Deserted Island. Under the sun, on a gravelly beach, Su Poman gradually regained consciousness. His first sensation was aches all over his body, and from being submerged in the sea for so long, his body had become somewhat numb. Thank goodness I'm lucky I'm not dead. He groggily opened his eyes and tried to get up, but found himself completely drained of energy. However, the sunlight restored some of his strength, and the coldness faded. About half an hour later, Su Poman sat up shakily and rubbed his body. Recalling the storm that day, he felt a wave of fear. If he hadn't been lucky enough to reach shore, he would have surely died. After sitting for a while, his elementary light energy physique restored some vitality. He stood up and surveyed the area. It was a small island as far as the eye could see, about the size of a football field, with a prominent rocky mountain in the center. On the other side of the rocky mountain grew a large forest of tall trees, making the entire mountain appear lush and vibrant. Around the edge, clusters of unknown weeds, half a man's height, grew. This wild grass was brown-green, its leaves like sharp swords, their edges lingering with a sharp aura. Even from a distance, Su Poman felt a shudder. He strolled toward the rocky mountain, hoping to ascend and survey the surrounding island for other destinations. Ideally, he could find a spot closer to the mainland, where there might be more human activity, so he could understand what kind of world he was in. The closer he got to the rocky mountain, the more Su Poman felt the strangeness of the unknown weeds ahead of him. They swayed slightly, reflecting a metallic luster in the sunlight. He couldn't tell if he was hallucinating, but he even faintly heard the sound of swords. What a strange weed. Be careful. Su Poman approached the rocky mountain with a serious expression, then reached out and carefully parted the sword-shaped weeds. Swish, the sound of a blade slicing flesh echoed, and Su Poman was startled at first, then felt pain on the back of his hand. He stared wide-eyed as the slightly curved, sword-shaped weeds had actually sliced through his hand. Such sharp blades, comparable to an ordinary paper cutter. Luckily, I was careful. My movements weren't sharp, so the wound is shallow. Just as he was lost in thought, a notification chimed in his mind. Ding, energy detected. Converted to energy points. Overjoyed, Su Poman touched the blade of sword-shaped weed again. Sure enough, the notification chimed in again, asking if it had been converted to energy points. Yes, conversion completed. You've gained 0.1 energy points. A faint glimmer of light flashed across the purple wheel in his mind, and then the unknown weed before him withered at a visible speed, turning gray-black in an instant, devoid of all life. Su Poman hurriedly checked his energy points, but found they had only increased by 0.1, far short of the required energy points for another draw. However, when he noticed the clumps of sword-shaped weeds growing all over the hills near the valley, a look of delight crossed his face. These are all energy points. Su Poman carefully touched another blade of sword-shaped weed, and sure enough, the notification chimed in again. Ding, energy detected. Convert to energy points. Yes, conversion completed. You've earned 0.1 energy points. Before long, he had plucked all the sword-shaped weeds near the valley. He gleefully glanced at the energy point count on the roulette screen, feeling confident he had enough to start with. Just this patch of sword-shaped weeds had yielded 52.9 energy points. If he drew 10 energy points at a time, he could have drawn 5 times. Hey, man of steel, here I come. Su Poman grinned, his mind racing as he imagined himself soaring through the air, catching missiles with his bare hands. Then, with a flicker of his mind, he tapped the draw button. All the energy points emptied out, transforming into a faint beam of light that poured into the purple roulette. The screen blurred, and Su Poman saw the purple source roulette spin in a circle, sending messages into his mind. Searching for target, establishing link, extracting ding, spent 52.9 energy points, extraction successful, gaining the ability intermediate light energy constitution. You can absorb solar energy and gradually strengthen your constitution. Strength and defense will continue to increase with your constitution. Purple source roulette, name, Su Poman, realm, none, bloodline, intermediate light energy constitution, ability, photosynthesis enhancement, energy points. 0, minimum 10 energy points to extract once, amount available to extract. 0, click to extract, current extraction target, bronze Superman 0.06 per mil. Su Poman felt a little disappointed at this increase. He didn't expect that after spending over 50 energy points, he would only gain this little improvement. He didn't know when he would reach the level of Iron Body, let alone other extraordinary abilities. It was midday, the sun blazing brightly. Su Poman felt his entire body warm as it bathed him in the sunlight. His once frail body was growing stronger at a perceptible pace. Though the change wasn't particularly noticeable, he could still vaguely sense it. This was truly terrifying. At this rate of physical improvement, even if Su Poman lay around doing nothing but basking in the sun every day, he could defeat the world boxing champions of his previous life in just 2 weeks. Not bad at all. I'm sure my strength will improve even faster if I find more of these strange weeds. Su Poman consoled himself and found a gentler path to the top of the rocky mountain. Not only was there no obstruction, allowing for better basking in the sun, but it also offered a better view, making it easier for him to find his way out. Although he didn't need to eat, he couldn't be trapped on this island forever. The rocky mountain wasn't too high, but climbing it was incredibly strenuous, requiring some parts to use both hands and feet. When he reached halfway, he suddenly heard the warning sound again. Ling. Energy detected. Has it been converted into energy points? Su Poman looked around with a look of doubt and bewilderment. There doesn't seem to be anything unusual here. How could there be energy? The next second, as he used his mind to absorb the energy, a thick fog suddenly erupted before him. The entire stone mountain shook, sending rubble flying. Boom! The earth and rocks beneath Su Poman gave way. Before he could even listen to how many energy points he had gained, he fell into a large pit along with him. Fortunately, the drop was small, and Su Poman managed to steady himself. When the dust cleared, a long corridor appeared before him. The stone walls were remarkably smooth, as if carved by some divine weapon. Could this be a grave? Su Poman scratched his head and looked around. Noticing a strange spot beneath the pile of rubble where he stood, he bent down to clear the rubble, only to discover a strange, complex circular pattern that made him dizzy. 3 shimmering lines connected to a metal shell, each embedded with a transparent stone. However, all 3 stones were now cracked. It's a bit like the legendary formation. The 3 transparent stones should be an energy storage device similar to a battery, and if nothing goes wrong, this formation should be used to seal the entrance to the tunnel. Su Poman's heart sank at this thought. Could I have stumbled into some cultivator's lair? And even destroyed their formation? Terrified, Su Poman ducked his head and quickly glanced around. The tunnel was pitch black, devouring nothing. To Su Poman, it looked like a terrifying, devouring monster. His legs felt weak. Hey, is anyone home? Sorry to bother you, I just stopped by, Su Poman called out tentatively, but there was no response from the pitch-black tunnel. Huh? He breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. Looks like there's no one in there. After recovering from his shock, he finally had time to glance at the roulette screen. This sight made him scream in shock. Holy crap! How could it absorb so many energy points? I'm actively saving drafts for a burst of updates. Chapter 4 Skeleton. This time, his harvest yielded a full 96 energy points, far more than his previous painstaking weeding efforts. Could this be one of those spirit stones from novels, or some kind of energy ore? It holds a lot of energy. Su Poman bent down and pulled out a transparent stone encased in a metal shell, examining it carefully. Sadly, the stone shattered into pieces with the slightest squeeze, and no mental reminder reached him as he held it. These stones are useless, I've drained their energy. After discarding the stones, Su Poman looked toward the corridor. It was already afternoon, and the sun was setting, slanting its rays into the tunnel, making it less eerie. To guard against any traps, Su Poman threw several stones into the tunnel, finding no sign of movement before entering. The stone walls on either side were still perfectly smooth, devoid of any lines or murals, and it didn't resemble a grave. Su Poman was walking when he suddenly stopped, a thought flashing through his mind. With a single thought, he expended all 96 energy points he had just acquired on the purple source roulette. Ding! Spent 96 energy points, extraction successful, gaining the ability Advanced Light Energy Constitution. This ability absorbs solar energy, significantly enhancing your physique. Your strength, defense, and speed will continuously improve as your physique improves. You also gain the new ability Supervision. 1. Perspective, ability to see through ordinary matter to its essence. 2. Dynamic Vision, concentrate to enter a state of motion capture, slowing the movement of all objects in the world to the host size. 3. Supervisual range, even at an altitude of 10,000 meters, even the finest hairs on the ground can be seen clearly. 4. Night Vision. Su Poman experienced his new abilities with great joy. The once dim corridor before him became as bright as day, revealing the surroundings to him with unerring clarity. His gaze penetrated a stone wall, reaching deep within. At the end of the corridor, he discovered a square stone chamber. In the center, a raised stone platform sat a skeleton, its head tilted upwards. After taking in his surroundings, Su Poman's previous fear faded. This corridor was unprepossessing. There were no traps or similar formations visible until the stone chamber itself. He hurried through the corridor, turned a corner, and entered the stone chamber. With his supervision, everything before him was remarkably clear. Sitting cross-legged on the jade-white stone platform was a skeleton, draped in a cyan robe that even his supervision couldn't see through. The robe's style was remarkably simple, unlike modern clothing, which gave Su Poman some ideas. Furthermore, he keenly noticed golden lines running through the skeleton's shimmering white bones, as if gilded, gleaming in the darkness. Su Poman took a few steps toward the stone platform, hoping to get a closer look. But just as he came within 3 meters, he stumbled and retreated hastily. Who the hell is this? A dead skeleton is so intimidating I can't even get close. Su Poman felt an inexplicable pressure from the skeleton, like entering another planet with gravity several times greater than before. Every cell and organ in his body was experiencing that terrifying pressure. If Su Poman hadn't been so much stronger now, he would have been crushed to the ground, even more mortified, if he had come within 3 meters of the skeleton. After careful consideration, Su Poman decided to temporarily exit the stone chamber and bask in the sun for a few days before exploring again. Now possessing a high-level light energy constitution, sun exposure would significantly strengthen his physique. With his strengthened constitution, he would naturally be able to withstand this strange pressure. Su Poman returned the same way. As soon as he emerged from the corridor, the sunlight outside made him feel relaxed and comfortable, as if thousands of small hands were massaging his muscles. The comfort was so great that he couldn't help but let out a long roar. Since there was no one else here, there was no need to be ashamed. It didn't take long for Su Poman to feel his strength and physical fitness greatly improved. Using his hands and feet, he flipped over and jumped out of the deep pit he had collapsed into, his movements as nimble as the world's top parkour master. Then, he crouched down and climbed the steep stone mountain. It wasn't long before he reached the top. The area was bare, without any vegetation. Looking out, the endless ocean stretched out in the distance. Even with Su Poman's supervision, he couldn't find any land within his sight. At most, he could only see some reefs protruding from the sea. He couldn't even spot a ship. Alice, it seems I've overthought. Even standing on this mountaintop, I can't see any land. I'll have to find another way to find it, Su Poman sighed inwardly, then sprawled out on the ground, closing his eyes and enjoying the moment. For 4 days, Su Poman lay there in the sun, occasionally standing up to gaze out into the distance to see if any ships were passing by the island. To his disappointment, no ships were seen during those 4 days. That afternoon, he decided to explore the skeleton again. He could sense something special about it. If he could successfully reach it, he would surely gain something beneficial. This was his chance, and there was no reason to give it up. Halfway up the mountain, he leaped into the deep pit, then walked through the corridor with ease, arriving at the stone chamber. Here, Su Poman's expression grew solemn as he cautiously approached within 10 feet of the skeleton. As he entered that area, Su Poman trembled, and a smile spread across his lips. Not bad, I managed. 4 days of continuous sunbathing had transformed his physique. Basking in the sunlight, he felt himself growing stronger with every passing moment. His physical strength now surpassed even that of a specialized soldier trained for years. His strength and defense had reached the limits of what ordinary humans on Blue Star could achieve in their previous lives. Su Poman slowly inched forward, sweat dripping from his forehead. He noticed the closer he got to the skeleton, the greater the pressure he felt. A distance of 10 feet felt like the end of the world to him. His muscles tensed, and his stored energy rapidly depleted. He moved as if glued, slowly and laboriously. After more than 20 minutes, Su Poman finally reached within touching distance of the skeleton. His breathing became labored, his expression contorted in agony, his clothes soaked with sweat. 36 bows were complete, with only the final shiver left. How could Su Poman give up at this last moment? He gritted his teeth and used all his strength to raise his arms. His thighs suddenly exerted force and rushed forward, finally touching the skull. Ding recommended to use the Kidian reading app. Reading and communication are more smooth. Chapter 5 Ring. Ding. Energy detected. Converted to energy points. Su Poman, sensing his last gasp, quickly replied yes, confirming with his mind. Then, unable to hold on any longer, he collapsed to the ground beneath this strange force. Conversion completed. You've gained 225 energy points. The skeleton, faintly shimmering with golden light, crumbled to dust at a visible speed, its entire skeleton scattering like ash. The cyan cloud pattern robe, so invisible even to him, seemed to have lost its support and fell to the ground. Dingling, a crisp metallic sound echoed. A jet-black ring tumbled from his robe, striking Su Poman's head and spinning several times before coming to rest. With the skeleton's disappearance, the surrounding pressure vanished as well. Su Poman gasped for breath, his entire body slumping as if he had just been pulled out of a slurry of soup. His mouth stretched into a wide, wild grin, simply because of the notification. Risks and opportunities indeed. So many energy points. I wonder what kind of abilities I'll be able to draw from them, Su Poman thought with great anticipation. However, he frowned when he realized he couldn't draw any more energy points. The purple source roulette screen displayed the message: this month's draws have been exhausted. Only 3 draws a month? What a shame, Su Poman sighed helplessly. He picked up the jet-black ring, slipped it onto his index finger, and dragged himself out of the corridor. The moment he saw the sunlight, he could no longer hold on and stumbled to the ground. As for the cyan robe, which he couldn't even see through, he didn't have the strength to retrieve it now. He would have to wait until tomorrow. All his strength had been exhausted from battling the pressure earlier, and just getting out of the corridor and outside had taken every last bit of his strength. The evening sunlight shone a reddish-orange hue, bathing Su Poman's upper body in warmth and relieving his fatigue. All the fatigue and aches in his body quickly vanished under the warmth, and his strength began to return. However, having previously exhausted himself fighting the pressure, he felt too lazy to even move a finger. He lay quietly in the pit, half closed his eyes, watching the setting sun, feeling completely at ease. Slowly, he closed his eyes, and as darkness descended, he fell into deep sleep. A massive moon rose, casting a silvery halo over the entire island. From the pit halfway up the mountain, a deafening snoring echoed across the tranquil island, echoing with the nearby crash of the waves. In the middle of the night, a resounding boom followed, and the rocky mountain in the center of the island collapsed, burying the stone chambers and passages within. The loud noise didn't awaken Su Poman from his deep sleep. He simply frowned, turned over, and continued to snore. The next day, Su Poman awoke to the warmth and comfort of sunlight. He was startled to see the vanished tunnel entrance and the now shorter stone mountain. Damn! That green robe collapsed before I even got it out. I should have taken the trouble to bring it out with me. But it doesn't matter. I don't care about things worn by a dead person. There's no way I, Su Poman, would dig such a high mountain just for a piece of tattered clothing. No way, unless I'm crazy. After enjoying the sun for a while, Su Poman rose and climbed to the top of the stone mountain. He looked around but still saw no passing ships. Desperate, Su Poman could only hope to build his own boat and sail out to sea. As for materials, Su Poman had spotted a dense forest of trees on the other side of the stone mountain. Some of them were thick, long, and large, perfect for a boat. However, he didn't have any tools to cut wood, so he could only find some sharp stones to smash it. There should have been one blade of that sword-shaped weed left. It would have made a great felling tool, but unfortunately I've already plucked it all. All I can do is use stones to kill time. Immediately, after thinking it through, Su Poman picked up a few pieces of gravel from the rocky hill that looked like axes. Then, he gathered some vines and tied them securely to a wooden stick about the thickness of his arm, creating a simple stone axe. The axe was heavy, and even an ordinary person would struggle to lift it, but in Su Poman's hands, it was like a plastic toy, effortlessly wielding it, creating a whirring sound. His advanced light energy physique had granted him a far superior physique, now surpassing the limits of normal humans. While not as powerful as the Iron Man in the movies, his strength and speed now rivaled those of even the most powerful carnivorous beasts at the top of the food chain. Su Poman descended the gentle slope of the rocky hill and, stone axe in hand, circled around to the side where the trees grew. To be honest, he had never seen such a tree before. It resembled the poplars of Blue Planet in his previous life, but its leaves were much wider, the largest larger than an adult's palm. The dense foliage provided shade within the woods, but Su Poman disliked staying within the shade. Without sunlight, his growth would slow. So, starting at the edge of the dense forest, he selected a tree that looked relatively large and struck it with his axe. Bang! A muffled thud was followed by a powerful recoil from the stone axe, leaving his palm numb and the vines he had bound loosening slightly. However, a dent, about an inch deep, appeared on the trunk before him, a sign that his stone axe was still effective. A few dozen more swings should sever the tree. Su Poman began swinging the stone axe repeatedly. Unlike the first time, he didn't swing with all his might, controlling his strength to prevent it from breaking too quickly. After repeated swings, Su Poman shed his coat and, holding the stone axe in both hands, swung it continuously under the sun. Bang, 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 the sound of impact continued. It was the process of grinding. Even if the tools were inferior and not sharp enough, water dripping through stone wears away. With a well-wielded hoe, there was no corner of the wall that could not be dug. Su Poman firmly believed this. With the help of his advanced light energy physique, the repeated swings did not fatigue him. Instead, they promoted muscle growth and a slow increase in strength. This increase in strength was not due to absorbing sunlight, but rather to the development of his own muscles. While on Blue Star, he had occasionally run and exercised, but his physique was thin, and even without clothes, he showed no signs of improvement. Now, the constant swinging of the stone axe, coupled with the physical enhancement brought by his advanced light energy physique, caused his body to undergo an incredible transformation in a short period of time. Muscle lines continued to form. After only half a day, Su Poman was astonished to find that his upper body had already formed a truly beautiful muscular line. This muscle is very different from the bloated crab monsters developed through technology. Instead, it has perfectly proportioned lines. It doesn't look bloated, but rather very beautiful. To describe it in one word, it is strong. After secretly admiring it for a while, Su Poman changed to a stone axe and continued to chop trees. Remember to save it. Chapter 6 Bishan Village. 3 days later, the weather was beautiful and the sky clear. On the shore of the island, a young man, shirtless, stood on a strangely shaped wooden boat. He was quite handsome, and his bright eyes, beneath his dark hair, hinted at excitement. Su Poman tightened each wooden binding to ensure it was secure, then loosened the vines tethering it to the boulder on the shore. With a firm paddle, the odd boat spun away from the shore, stirring up waves. "Goodbye, Mom and Dad. I'm sailing tonight," Su Poman hummed, his hands waving. The oars slapped the sea surface, and the gentle breeze brought him great comfort. The days of drifting on the sea were dull and boring. Every day, he cut through the waves under the sun, and in the dead of night, he lay on the wooden boat, following the waves. Time flew by, and Su Poman had been adrift on the sea for over a month. The strange boat seemed to have reached the end of its useful life. The vines had softened from the seawater, ripping apart with the slightest tear. Su Poman, now basking in the sun for half a month, was stronger, his energy and blood surging, his eyes gleaming with a gleam of light. Though the wooden boat beneath him was about to break apart, he had sighted the shoreline. Though it was still a long day's journey, with a clear direction, Su Poman was confident he could swim there. With his goal in mind, Su Poman grew impatient. No longer willing to paddle slowly, he slammed his palm, sending the boat disintegrating beneath him, its thick timbers scattering in all directions. Grabbing one of the timbers, Su Poman thrust his legs hard, sending waves cascading behind him like a powerful propeller, and hurtling towards the shore at a speed comparable to a swimming fish. In the evening, the fiery clouds on the horizon painted the sky a brilliant red. Near the rock face of the mountain was a vast expanse of silvery sand. On the beach stood several children dressed in coarse linen, fishing for seafood. Each of them had a bag tied to their waist, picking up seafood washed up on the beach. Suddenly, a strange splash echoed from the waves near the coast, and a shirtless young man emerged from the water. His muscular figure shone brightly in the sunset glow, so much so that one of the girls shyly covered her eyes. "Finally, we've reached the shore." Su Poman wiped the seawater from his face and walked towards the shore step by step. He felt a little tired, but the sight of the long mist land filled his heart with a sense of peace, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but smile slightly. Seeing a few children dressed in strange attire, Su Poman put on what he thought was a friendly smile and asked, "Children, do you know where this place is?" The children exchanged bewildered glances before one of them spoke. Percent at percent, several children began to chatter, their intonations strikingly similar to Chinese, but he couldn't understand them. Su Poman knew immediately that something was wrong, a language barrier. A headache pounded on his mind. This was a serious problem. He'd have to learn the local language. With an awkward smile, he left the beach and walked along a small path. As he walked, a village began to appear before him. The sounds of roosters crowing and dogs barking filled his ears. Su Poman, looking at the fenced houses, small bridges, and flowing water, felt a sense of familiarity. The style was very similar to ancient Chinese villages, yet with subtle differences. No electricity, no lights. This doesn't seem like modern society, Su Poman speculated. As he entered the village, smoke rose from the chimneys of each household. The dogs, having roamed outside all day, returned home to await their owners' feeding. The presence of a stranger would undoubtedly arouse the villagers' vigilance. After unsuccessful attempts to communicate, an elderly man, seemingly venerable, struck up a conversation with several villagers. He's quite a strong man, but unfortunately, he's deaf-mute. I don't know where he came from. I hope he's not some thief or swindler. Yes, he looks like he can't understand or speak, but Su Poman tried to communicate with the villagers, but a language barrier kept him from speaking. He could only giggle and try to appear innocent. A kind old woman gave him a linen shirt and two what looked like wild vegetable dumplings, presumably a local delicacy. Su Poman didn't refuse. He put on the shirt, accepted the wild vegetable dumplings, and smiled and bowed to the old woman. This young man doesn't look stupid, and he knows some etiquette. It's a pity he can't speak, otherwise he could talk to the unmarried girls in our village. He looks quite sturdy, the old woman said, touching Su Poman's arm and smiling with satisfaction. At this moment, the elders leading the group, who were discussing something, called over a dark-faced man. After speaking a few words to him, the man walked directly towards Su Poman. Su Poman was puzzled, but after seeing his movements, he understood what he meant. The man waved at him, asking him to follow him somewhere. Although Su Poman couldn't understand what the man was saying, he smiled and spoke in a rather ancient accent. Su Poman guessed he was explaining the situation in the village. The two walked one in front and the other behind, the dark-faced man occasionally looking back to see Su Poman's reaction. Seeing that Su Poman remained confused, he gave up and led him on a quick walk. Soon, the two arrived at a weed-covered courtyard, overgrown with weeds and a dilapidated house. The dark-faced man pushed open the tightly closed wooden door, entered the courtyard, and motioned Su Poman to follow. The courtyard was small. Besides the weeds, a jujube tree grew in the center. Near the wall stood an ancient well, supported by a stone slab. The shaft used to draw water from the well had broken and lay carelessly beside it. To the north of the courtyard were two connected bungalows. The walls were made of black mud and stone, and a plant similar to creeper climbed up them. Occasionally, a distant sea breeze blew, causing its branches to sway slightly. The dark-faced man pushed open the door, and a musty smell immediately hit his nose. Because it was evening, the light was dim, and the room was pitch black. However, Su Poman's supervision allowed him to see clearly what was inside. The room was covered in cobwebs, and green fungi had grown in the corners of the walls because they had never been exposed to sunlight. The furnishings were simple, with only a square table and two wooden chairs, one of which was broken. Near the east wall stood a stone bed, bare except for a layer of dust. The dark-faced man frowned, casually brushing aside the spider webs that fell before his eyes. He walked over to the table and pulled out a thumb-sized bamboo tube from his bosom. After gently removing the lid, he blew hard, and sparks appeared. The man brought the tinder closer to the candlestick on the table. Soon, a bean-sized flame gradually burned, growing larger and stronger. A faint pine scent filled the air, and the entire room became brighter. The dark-faced man quietly helped him quickly clean the room and even went out to bring back a quilt that looked like it had been repaired many times and was covered in patches. Su Poman felt a little warm in his heart, and felt the simplicity and kindness of the villagers here. Although he couldn't express it in words, his eyes looking at the black-faced man became softer, no longer so alienated. After the black-faced man finished, he smiled and nodded at Su Poman and left. Su Poman was the only one left in the yard. The huge moon hung in the dark sky, and the stars were twinkling. Except for the occasional barking of dogs, other sounds gradually became inaudible. Su Poman moved the chair out and sat under the jujube tree in the yard, looking up at the moon, lost in thought. The passion of the time travel had subsided, and he felt a little homesick, missing his family on the blue planet. I don't know if I will have the chance to go back and visit in this life, Su Poman said to himself, his expression a little gloomy. He slumped down, his head tilted back on the backrest of the wooden chair, half closed his eyes and looked at the huge moon, and slowly fell asleep. Everyone, happy Dragon Boat Festival, remember to vote for it. Chapter 7 Saltworks. In the early morning, Su Poman slowly woke up. There were a few tiny dewdrops on his linen shirt. He cleaned himself up a little and was about to get some water to rinse his mouth when someone knocked on the wooden door. Su Poman opened the door and saw that it was the dark-faced man who asked him to come over yesterday. Add and %. The dark-faced man waved his arms and gestured for a while. Although Su Poman didn't understand, from his gestures, he probably wanted him to follow him somewhere. Thinking of his predicament of not being able to speak the language, Su Poman thought it would be good to have more contact with the locals. The dark-faced man first took him to a fenced yard. In the yard, a gentle-looking woman was cooking. A 5 or 6-year-old child was playing by the small dining table. Su Poman looked closely and saw that it was one of the children he met on the beach yesterday. Upon seeing Su Poman, the child began to speak a flurry of words to the dark-faced man. The man, somewhat puzzled, asked a few questions. After a brief exchange, he turned and pointed at Su Poman, then at his own mouth. Su Poman quickly replied, I don't understand what you're saying, but I'm not mute. Upon hearing Su Poman's words, the dark-faced man's face lit up with realization, as if he'd realized the young man wasn't deaf-mute as the village rumors had suggested, but simply didn't speak the local Mandarin. Just then, the gentle woman brought out pots and bowls, laden with 4 bowls of mushy soup and a plate of dried fish. The dark-faced man pulled Su Poman to sit down, then, gesturing as if he were eating, slowly uttered a word. Su Poman immediately realized the man was teaching him to speak, and he repeated the words himself. After repeating them several times, the man shoved a flatbread into Su Poman's hand and signaled for him to begin eating. The gentle woman sipped her soup with a small spoon, her movements appearing more refined. The dark-faced man, on the other hand, was more ferocious, tearing the dough into pieces and dunking them into the broth, devouring them with relish. The child followed his father's example and began eating. Su Poman took a sip of the soup and found it had a sticky, grainy texture with a salty, fragrant flavor, much like the preserved egg and lean meat porridge he'd enjoyed on Blue Star. Although his advanced light energy constitution meant he didn't need to eat, his appetite was unbearable. Su Poman felt that if he went too long without food, his mouth would become bland. The meal before him, though simple, suddenly had a salty, fragrant flavor after not having tasted anything for a long time, and it tasted incredibly delicious. He immediately imitated the dark-faced man, tearing the dough into pieces and dunking them in the broth, then devouring them with chopsticks. The child nearby looked at Su Poman in surprise. He was puzzled. He was tired of rice and shrimp soup and flatbread, but Su Poman could enjoy it so much that it whetted his appetite, and he even ate half an extra flatbread. Soon, the dark-faced man finished his bowl of rice and shrimp soup. Then, Su Poman finished his fight and burped as he put down his bowl and chopsticks. The dark-faced man smiled slightly, stood up, and led Su Poman out. They quickly left the village and walked along a long road until they arrived in front of a village. A large sign hung above the village, with 3 large characters written on it. However, Su Poman didn't recognize the meaning of these 3 characters. The dark-faced man beside him seemed much more reserved. 2 strong men in red clothes, wearing armor and carrying swords, guarded the village gate. The dark-faced man pulled a wooden sign from his pocket and respectfully handed it to the gatekeeper, pointing at Su Poman and mumbling along, unintelligible speech. The burly man in red holding the wooden sign frowned slightly, then, as if struck by a thought, tossed it to the dark-faced man and waved his hand, as if shooing away a fly, motioning for the 2 to enter. The dark-faced man put away the sign, smiled apologetically, and was about to drag Su Poman into the village when the ground shook, followed by the sound of horse hoofs. Hearing the sound, the dark-faced man hurriedly dragged Su Poman to the side of the road and lowered his head, a look of nervousness on his face, motioning for Su Poman to do the same. The 2 burly men in red at the village gate straightened their bodies, staring intently ahead, their previous slouching demeanor gone. Soon, the shaking intensified as 5 3-meter-tall, black-scaled horses galloped in, their speed blazing. Su Poman, with his supervision, could see everything clearly, even spotting fleas in the horse's fur. These horses were completely different from the ones Su Poman had seen on Blue Star. Not only were they taller, but they also had a 10% inky scales growing from their heads to their necks. Their limbs were incredibly stout, their hooves alone as thick as bowls, and their coats as soft and shiny as the finest satin. They were clearly no ordinary horses. A skilled horseman would be astonished to discover that these 5 horses were truly magnificent beasts capable of traveling 1,000 miles a day. 5 men in blue robes rode upon the inky-scaled horses. Leading them was a stocky, middle-aged man. He wasn't particularly tall, but behind him lay a ring-handled broadsword that towered over him, giving him an imposing presence. Behind him were 3 men and 1 woman. The woman was particularly striking, with long black hair, a jade tiara, a white veil covering her face, and 2 butterfly thorns dangling from her waist. The hem of her blue robe was slit, revealing a pair of slender, round legs, which looked even more alluring against her brown riding boots. As for the 3 men, 1 fat and 2 thin, with ordinary features, their gazes occasionally flickered to the thighs of the woman in white gauze as they moved, a hint of lust in their eyes. The 5 men made no effort to linger at the village gate, rushing into the village in a cloud of dust, leaving a cloud of dust and ashes in their wake. After the dust cleared, the dark-faced man glanced cautiously inside, then smiled at the burly man in red at the gate and led Su Poman into the village. The village gate was built between 2 low hills, flanked by high wooden walls that extended halfway up the mountain. Several men in red patrolled the dense forest above. On either side of the gate stood 4 or 5 8 or 9 meter tall arrow towers, guarded by men in red armed with bows. From these towers, distant shouts could be heard, as if from a military drill. The dark-faced man didn't head in the direction of the shouting, but instead led Su Poman to another path. After a short distance, a group of buildings came into view. That's, Su Poman pondered as he gazed at the buildings. Drawing on his previous reading, he quickly recognized a place. Pits of white crystals, filled with murky liquid, stood nearby. Round wooden towers stood nearby. Further away, several vast salt ponds lay scattered. Beneath these ponds, square holes had been dug. A circle of salt workers gathered around them, adding fuel to the fire. Mist rose from the ponds, shrouding the surroundings in a blanket of white. This must be a salt pit. Salt pits form in relatively closed coastal areas, where tidal water accumulates. Evaporation increases the concentration of the water within, allowing the brine to be directly used to make salt using traditional methods. This village, if nothing unexpected happened, was where a salt gang produced sea salt. The dark-faced man had likely brought him here to find him a livelihood at the salt fields. The black-faced man's job was to carry brine from the salt pits to the salt ponds, where specialized workers would light fires and use the brine to make salt. After greeting the local manager, the black-faced man led Su Poman to carry brine, bucket after bucket, while simultaneously teaching Su Poman how to speak between tasks. As for Su Poman, he joined the black-faced man in carrying brine on a shoulder pole. Whenever the black-faced man spoke to him very slowly, he would take him seriously, considering his gestures and the context of his situation. The brine was carried in wooden barrels, and while it wasn't too heavy, many water carriers would be exhausted after a day's work. The black-faced man was considered an old man here, and while he had some energy left, he wouldn't walk too fast, carrying water at a pace that maximized his energy. Su Poman performed the task with ease, carrying the nearly 30-kilogram load with no strain at all. The weather was already quite hot, and with few clouds in the sky, the water bearers were sweating profusely, stopping periodically to rest and drink water. However, Su Poman remained completely unperspired, even enjoying the sunshine. A dark-faced man squatted in the shade, took a sip from his water bag, and looked at Su Poman, who stood in the sun not far away, with a strange look in his eyes. "It's so hot, why aren't you sweating?" the dark-faced man asked, bewildered. Su Poman didn't understand the man's question. As he pointed to the sweat on his head and then came over to touch his perfectly dry hair, he realized that the question was asking why he wasn't sweating. Su Poman was speechless and could only spread his hands to indicate that he couldn't explain. The dark-faced man, helpless, handed the water bag to Su Poman, made a drinking gesture, and uttered a single word. Su Poman immediately understood what he meant and read it aloud, then picked up the water bag and took a sip. "Yaohizi, what's wrong with this little brother you brought?" "Can't he speak?" a skinny man in shorts came over and asked curiously. Yao Dashin nodded and said, He came to our village a few days ago. He must be a survivor washed up by the waves at sea. He may be from somewhere else. Anyway, he doesn't speak our Mandarin, then he's really lucky to have survived in the sea. I heard from the old people that there are demons in the depths of the sea. Even the masters of the Hagang dare not provoke the demons, the skinny man continued. Hearing this, Yayodashin frowned and interrupted quickly. Enough of this, Newtigan. It's time to go to work. If you rest any longer, I guess the manager will come to beat you up. Seeing the black-faced man leave, Su Poman also grabbed the carrying pole and followed. At noon, the saltworks provided free meals. While not tasty, they were plentiful. Yayodashin and the others devoured several bowls of dry rice. Su Poman, finding the food unappetizing, only ate one bowl to make do, lest he draw attention to himself by skipping meals. Near dusk, Yayodashin and Su Poman received their wages from the steward, a crescent-shaped bronze coin minted from a type of copper ore. Returning to the village, Yayodashin slumped back in his chair, looking slightly exhausted. Su Poman mumbled in the local dialect, having just learned it, I'll start work tomorrow. Yayodashin's face lit up, and he exclaimed in surprise, You're quite talented, young man. You've grasped the meaning in just one day. It seems you should be able to speak without any problems in a while. Su Poman, listening to this string of words, searched his memory, but found he couldn't comprehend such a long sentence. He gave up, shook his head in confusion, and bowed, preparing to say goodbye. Just as he turned, the dark-faced man stood up from his chair, grabbed his shoulder, and said in a very slow voice, Stay for dinner. Yayodashin even made a gesture as he spoke. Su Poman instantly understood what he meant and readily agreed without refusing. He was secretly thinking about leaving the 5 crescent-shaped copper coins he had just received for the family's meals for the next few days. Su Poman was deeply grateful for the dark-faced man's continued assistance. Soon, Yayodashin's wife prepared dinner, and the child sat down at the table to eat. It was a simple meal, a few vegetable dumplings, a pile of dried fish, and a light rice porridge. The family chatted at the table, and time passed quickly. After dinner, Su Poman, while Yayodashin went into the inner room to get something, secretly slipped the 5 crescent-shaped copper coins to Yayodashin's wife and ran back to his own courtyard. Just as Su Poman was sitting in his chair, about to close his eyes and reflect on the day's gains, there was a knock at the door. Su Poman showed a bitter smile. He knew without opening the door that it must be the black-faced man who had chased him and wanted to return the crescent coin. When he opened the door, it was indeed the black-faced man. He looked anxious, and in his hand were the 5 coins that he had stuffed into his wife before. Yayodashin stuffed the crescent coin into Su Poman's hand with a serious face, and then said a long paragraph of words that he couldn't understand and left directly. Su Poman was a little helpless. The villagers here are too simple. I will have a chance to repay their family in the future, 2 chapters in 1. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8 Black Iron Body. This small coastal village seems to have no winter, enjoying a year-round warm climate. Near the end of the year, the local festival, the Sea God Festival, is held. Every household is decorated with lanterns and colorful decorations, much like the Spring Festival on Blue Planet. The purpose of the Sea God Festival is to worship the sea god, praying for good weather and good harvests. The sea god protects fishing boats from encountering evil spirits while fishing offshore, ensuring a bountiful harvest. The ritual is quite elaborate. The entire village, young and old, gathers, led by the most prestigious elder. They offer 3 kinds of animals, offer sacrifices to the 5 spirits, recite a lengthy ritual, and burn incense. The entire ritual takes a long time to prepare. After this period of living here, Su Poman has mastered the local language to a sufficient degree, and communication is no longer a problem. The biggest remaining problem is illiteracy. However, there are no local teachers, and even in the nearby villages, there are few who can teach. Therefore, learning to read has to be put on hold. After a year of exploration, Su Poman gained a preliminary understanding of this world. However, due to the local isolation, he knew only that it was a small village in Lianyan County, Dengfang Prefecture, Pu State. He also knew that this world was full of legends of demons and immortals. The warriors were the ones he had the most direct contact with, these ordinary people. A warrior is a term for mortals who have cultivated martial arts, nourishing their ki and blood, and strengthening their muscles and bones to a certain level. The gang that managed the salt fields was the He Gang, a major salt gang that dominated the 5 surrounding counties, and within it were true warriors. Rumor has it that the blue-clad disciples of the He Gang had all reached the level of a low-level warrior, so powerful that even 7 or 8 ordinary men could not approach them. However, in order to learn the local Mandarin, Su Poman kept his strength to himself. After a year of basking in the sun, his special physique had strengthened him, and his strength had improved significantly. His current strength was beyond even his own comprehension, but he knew that the rumored low-level warriors would not have been able to defeat him even a year ago. He was now dozens of times stronger than he had been a year ago, and his defense had reached an inhuman level, making ordinary swords, spears, and halberds invulnerable. The primary reason for this was that he had used the remaining 225 energy points from his previous session to draw upon new abilities. His advanced light energy physique had evolved once again, becoming a form known as the Black Iron Body. The Black Iron Body was a weaker version of Superman's Man of Steel, boasting even greater enhancement efficiency than the advanced light energy physique and offering a qualitatively improved boost to his defense. However, his biggest worry now was shaving. Ordinary knives struggled to cut through his own resilient beard, forcing him to rip it out himself whenever it grew too long. The pain was unbearable. Su Poman's current physical strength was terrifying in the mortal world, comparable to those masters of Vajra indestructibility and the Golden Bell cover iron cloth shirt. Ordinary weapons would at most leave white marks on his skin, making any attempt to injure him a pipe dream. Whether warriors of higher levels could injure him remained unknown, as no tests had been conducted. Su Poman sat in the yard, and with a thought, he opened the light curtain of the Purple Source Roulette. Purple Source Roulette. Name: Su Poman. Realm: None. Bloodline: Black Iron Body. Abilities: Light Energy Enhancement, Supervision, Super Hearing. Energy Points: 0. A minimum of 10 energy points can be drawn once. Amount that can be drawn: 0. Click to draw. Current drawing target: Bronze Superman. 0.28 per mil, 1,000th. Super Hearing is an ability that was automatically born after he drew the Black Iron Body. At the beginning, this new ability made him miserable. There were noisy sounds all around him, the sounds of people, insects, animals, shouting, moaning, and snoring. He couldn't fall asleep peacefully in the first few days. It took more than a month before he gradually mastered this new ability and could use it as he pleased. Alice, ever since I extracted the Black Iron Body, my energy points have been depleted. I've searched for everything, but nothing contains energy. Do I really have to traverse all the mountains and rivers in search of immortals? Su Poman frowned, looking at the empty energy points. In this world, the search for immortals also exists. Those martial artists who have achieved great success in the martial arts can only hope in the legendary immortal sects. Word of mouth tells of warriors who, driven by their dedication, ultimately achieved immortality. Therefore, in the hearts of all warriors, immortality is a higher pursuit. However, this pursuit is too ethereal. While some succeed, many others die in their quest without ever setting foot on an immortal gate. For ordinary warriors, reaching the pinnacle of martial arts is already extremely difficult. Immortality is, to them, a mere legend. Clumsy. 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 A knock on the door shattered Su Poman's wandering thoughts, bringing him back to reality. Is that Brother Yayo? Su Poman stood up, walked over, and pulled the bolt. Opening the door, he saw the dark-skinned Yayo Dashin. Brother Su, it's almost Poseidon Festival. Your sister-in-law steamed some buns, and I brought a few over for you. You don't have to light the stove tonight, eat them while they were hot. Yayo Dashin smiled, handing over a white-wrapped bun. Su Poman quickly took it, feeling the warmth in his hands. It was obvious that Yayo Dashin had delivered it fresh from the oven. Thank you so much, Brother Yayo. Say happy holidays to my sister-in-law from me. You're welcome, Brother Su. After Poseidon Festival, let's go to the salt fields a few more times. Once we've saved enough money, we can send our little tiger boy to town to learn a trade. Well, Tiger Boy has really reached the age to learn something. He can't just hang around in the village. Su Poman looked down at the buns in his hands, his heart warming, and he subconsciously thought of his family back on Blue Star. Every festive occasion brings a sense of longing for family. Although the Sigurd festival is different from the spring festival, the festive atmosphere can easily bring a touch of melancholy to those in a foreign land. After Su Poman saw Yayodashin off, he took out a steamed bun and began to eat. Yayodashin and his family have been very kind to me. After the Sigurd festival, if that plan succeeds, I'll settle them down properly as a way of repaying them. Su Poman thought to himself as he chewed the delicious, hot bun. The newly felled bamboo shoots on Nanshan Mountain burst into flames, and the night of the Sigurd festival was filled with laughter and joy. Under the vast night sky, with thousands of lights on, Su Poman sat alone in the courtyard, staring at the eerily large moon beneath the jujube tree in a daze. The Sigurd festival lasted for 3 days, and during that time, Yayodashin tried hard to invite Su Poman to a reunion dinner. However, Su Poman had been here for some time and had a good understanding of the local customs. After all, he was an outsider, so he declined. After the festival, the small village returned to its usual tranquility. The young people who worked in the town or the county had already left. Early in the morning, Su Poman was taken by Yayodashin to work in the salt field. Su Poman saw the village from a distance along the familiar path. The sign hanging above it read "Hey Gang" as expected. The strong men in red at the door were chatting casually. They had just celebrated the Sigurd festival, and these outer disciples in red were not as serious and fierce as before. They had some smiles on their faces. When a usually fierce person suddenly smiles, others will be flattered. The same was true for Yayodashin. When he arrived at the village gate, he spoke incoherently. "Come in quickly, work will start soon," the strong man in red on the right threw the wooden sign to Yayodashin. At this moment, the ground shook, and the neighing of a black-scaled horse came from the distance. "I moved recently, and I'm unhappy that I can't write." Chapter 9 Conflict. Upon hearing the noise, the burly man in red straightened his posture, his gaze stern as he shouted, "Quickly, stand by the roadside and keep your heads down. Don't look up. The warrior masters are coming, soon." 3 dark-scaled horses came galloping towards them, covered in dust. Yayodashin quickly pulled Su Poman by his coat and led him to the roadside. "Brother Su, keep your head down. The warrior masters have a bad temper. If you look up, you might get whipped." As he spoke, Yayodashin's throat moved and he swallowed hard, nervous and a little panicked. Among these warriors, one had a particularly bad temper. He would indiscriminately attack anyone who dared to look him in the eye. Many people in the salt field had suffered such a blow that even the ordinary salt workers there no longer dared to raise their heads in front of the warriors. Su Poman, having now mastered the local Mandarin, no longer wanted to waste time languishing in the mountains. He planned to join a martial arts faction to advance his career, and he needed an opportunity to demonstrate his prowess. With his own immense strength, joining a faction would be much easier. He lowered his head as usual, but as his horse approached, a hint of a smile played on his lips. He slowly raised his head, his eyes filled with calm. The burly man in red on his left noticed Su Poman's movements and whispered, "You bastard, are you trying to kill yourself?" But it was too late. A short, stocky man on the leading black-scaled horse in the distance had a cold gleam in his eyes. He gazed at Su Poman's slender figure, his gaze brimming with envy. "HMPH. You country bumpkin, you dare look me in the face? You're courting death." The short, stocky middle-aged man spoke as he swung his whip down, a gray shadow whirring through the air, striking Su Poman in the face. If this whip hits, an ordinary person will be disfigured if not killed, and a long, extremely ugly scar will be left on their face. The short and strong middle-aged man's vicious intentions are obvious, and he does not care about the lives of the villagers at all. When Yayodashin realized that something was wrong, it was too late to react. He could only watch the whip hit Su Poman's face. He couldn't help but close his eyes, unable to bear to see Su Poman's bloody appearance the next moment. However, although the whip was fast, the scene that everyone imagined did not happen. The 2 strong men in red felt a flash before their eyes, and Su Poman reached out and firmly grasped the other end of the whip, without moving an inch. "What?" the strong man in red on the right exclaimed, as if he had seen a ghost. "Am I seeing things?" The other strong man in red rubbed his eyes. "Oh, Brother Su." Yayodashin was also stunned. The situation on the field continued. With a black-scaled horse still galloping, the stocky middle-aged man, upon noticing the whip being grabbed, had no time to stop, and both man and horse continued to charge forward. This created a bizarre scene. Normally, if Su Poman hadn't let go of the whip, the black-scaled horse would have dragged him forward. But Su Poman bent his legs slightly, grasped the other end of the whip, and yanked hard, pinning him to the spot like a nail. The stocky man, however, stumbled and flew straight off the black-scaled horse, pulled off its back by a tremendous force. After a short moment in the air, the stocky middle-aged man instinctively let go of the whip and fell to the ground. Bang! Ouch! My butt! Dust billowed. Ouch! Behind him, two men in blue, one fat and one thin, quickly reined in their horses, dismounted beside the stocky middle-aged man, and helped him to his feet, staring at Su Poman in surprise. "Who are you to harm someone from the Hay Gang?" the tall, thin figure asked slowly, a hint of hesitation on his face. After all, Su Poman's previous display of strength had already reached the realm of a warrior. When a matter involves a warrior, it must be handled with extreme caution. A single mistake could easily spark a conflict between the two factions. A stern glint flickered in the fat man's eyes as he silently drew the machete slung from his waist, swung it slightly, and pointed the tip at Su Poman. "Two junior brothers, grab your weapons and teach him a lesson." The stocky middle-aged man charged forward, brandishing a large, ring-handled sword, shouting "kill." His movements were incredibly swift. Most men would be intimidated by his imposing presence, unable to move, ultimately helpless. "Master Warrior, this is a misunderstanding," Yayodashin shouted anxiously. Su Poman smiled, shifting his footing slightly, sending a piece of gravel flying through the air and striking the stocky middle-aged man in the chest. Puff! The stocky middle-aged man's eyes widened as if struck by lightning, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He fell to the ground, his expression instantly dejected, as if he had suffered a severe blow. The other two blue-clad disciples were shocked upon seeing this, knowing they had encountered a master, and quickly bowed in obeisance. "Senior, my senior brother Wu was rude just now. Please spare his life," the taller one said quickly, his tone becoming extremely respectful. For these junior warriors, the most important thing in navigating the martial arts world is to be discreet. Otherwise, if they provoke a powerful opponent, they will die without knowing how. Secondly, they must know the situation and be humble when necessary. Especially for low-ranking disciples like them, even if they were killed by a master, the gang would not offend a master for this. The fat man in blue, standing nearby, was somewhat dismissive, believing the man before him wasn't much stronger. He thought a single shout would spur the hundreds of outer disciples training in the village to rush out and hack him to death with their swords. His eyes darted wildly. Su Poman saw the fat man's expression and knew he wasn't giving up. So, he picked up a stone and gently rubbed it, sending a shower of stone dust flying from his hand. Seeing this, the fat man in blue shuddered violently, his breathing becoming heavier, and a cold sweat broke out on his back. "Oh my God, I'm so glad I didn't act rashly. This man in front of me is at least a 7th-grade warrior. His power is unparalleled. His internal energy could probably permeate his entire body." The thought of this made the blue-clothed fat man's small eyes grow even more panicked. He forced a smile and said, "Sir, we know we were wrong. Please, for the sake of the Hay Gang, spare us brothers. The headquarters is waiting for us to deliver the salt. If we return too late, we won't be able to explain ourselves." Yayodashin was bewildered by what was happening before his eyes widening. Is this still the brother Su I knew? The stocky middle-aged man lying on the ground, though bleeding, was not seriously injured. Realizing he had hit a wall, he tactfully knelt on the ground. A man's knees are made of gold, but that's only when his life is not in danger. What good is dignity if one can't even save his life? The stocky middle-aged man had lived half his life and had seen quite a few people, but at this moment, he was terrified and his head was spinning. Having offended such a person, he was really afraid of dying here. When he thought about the wealth he had accumulated for half a lifetime would become nothing after his death, he simply put his head to the ground and cried out with tears streaming down his face, "Hero, I was wrong. Please forgive my mistakes and spare my life. My hometown is in the nearby Wulin village, and I have an old mother who needs to be taken care of." "Shut up, I won't bother with you this time, but if there is a next time, I will definitely not let you off easily," Su Poman frowned and said coldly. As soon as these words came out, the short and strong middle-aged man known as Brother Wu immediately fell silent, not daring to make any more sounds. "All of you come forward, I have a few questions." Su Poman waved his hand. Chapter 10 Salt Transport Team. The three exchanged glances, unafraid to delay. They approached Su Poman tremblingly, their eyes fixed on the ground, unable to meet his gaze. "What experts do you have in the Hagang?" Su Poman asked lazily. The tall, thin man quickly spoke up, "My lord, we blue-robed disciples are only one level above the outer red-robed disciples. Most of us are at the bottom of the 9th rank. Above us are the green-robed deacons, who are at the 8th rank. Almost every branch has a green-robed deacon. Above that are the 5 purple-robed elders, who are at the 7th rank, stationed in the various counties where the Hagang holds sway. The most powerful of all is our Hagang's leader, a 6th rank." Mentioning his leader, the tall, thin man couldn't help but show admiration. Su Poman nodded. He wasn't familiar with the strength of warriors, but judging by these 3 9th-rank warriors, while their strength surpassed that of ordinary people, they were still far behind him. If that were the case, the chances of the gang leader, a 6th-rank warrior, defeating him would be slim. This would allow his plan to proceed. "Could you introduce me to someone? I'm Su Poman. I've long admired your gang leader and would like to join your gang." Although Su Poman was asking, his tone was undeniably firm. The fat man in blue rolled his eyes, a glint in his eyes. He stepped forward and said, "I, Sun Wei, am willing to introduce you. A master like you, joining our Hagang, our gang leader would certainly welcome you, at least as well as a purple-robed elder." The tall, thin man beside him tensed at this, not expecting Sun Wei to steal the credit. He quickly followed suit, saying, "I, Chang Pen, am also willing to introduce you, Senior. I, Wu Santong, would also like to introduce you. Why don't we all report this to the gang leader together when we return to headquarters?" Wu Santong suggested, wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth. Su Poman nodded, shifted his body, and with a flick of his hand, he snatched the purse from Wu Santong's waist. "You just offended me. This is your apology." Wu Santong clutched his chest, his heart finally at ease. Losing a little money didn't matter, it meant this senior wouldn't punish him for his earlier recklessness, and his life was no longer in danger. Suddenly, he felt reassured, and quickly put on a smile. Of course. This is my apology. I'm deeply honored that you accept it." "Yes." Su Poman nodded slightly. He opened the purse and looked inside. He found 40 or 50 silver crescent coins. Made of silver, they were more valuable than copper coins. These crescent coins, shaped like a crescent moon, were the currency in circulation in Pu State. 1 gold crescent coin could be exchanged for 100 silver crescent coins, and 1 silver crescent coin for 100 copper crescent coins. For an average family living in the county town, without significant income, their annual expenses would be no more than 10 silver coins. Living in a rural town would cost even less. This short, stocky man carried 40 or 50 silver coins, demonstrating that warriors were far more capable of earning money than ordinary people. "The 3 of you go in and wait, and prepare the salt for transport. I'll return to the Hagang headquarters with you later," Su Poman said slowly, tucking the purse into his arms. "Yes, sir," the 3 men respectfully responded, leading their horses into the village. Yao Dashin stood nearby, his face a complex expression. He suddenly felt that the Su brothers before him were somewhat unfamiliar. Su Poman walked up to Yao Dashin and said with a smile, "Brother Yao, this is for you. When I get settled at the Hagang headquarters, I'll take the 3 of you to live in the county town. Then your son Huzi can go to school there and learn some real skills. If he wants to learn martial arts, I can find him a martial arts instructor in the Hagang." As he spoke, he stuffed the purse into Yao Dashin's hands. "Brother Su, I can't take this." Yao Dashin quickly refused, a look of panic on his face, and his hands quickly pushed it away. Su Poman grabbed Yao Dashin's shoulder, looked into his eyes and said seriously, "Brother Yao, you have done me a favor. These crescent coins are insignificant to me. With my strength, I can easily get more money. Besides, you have to consider your family's Huzi. If you go to live in the county, Huzi will be exposed to a wider world, and he will have a greater chance of making a name for himself in the future. Don't you always want to bring honor to your family? Listen to me, take it quickly, just think of it as taking it for Huzi." It seemed that because of the mention of Huzi, Yao Dashin hesitated for a moment on his dark face, gritted his teeth, accepted it with some guilt, and said in a deep voice, "Brother Su, just think of it as a loan from me, and I will return it to you when I have money in the future." Haha, Brother Yao, what is our relationship? You are so good to me, this is nothing. You don't have to go to work during this period. Use this money to live first, and wait for my news. I will pick you up when I settle down." Su Poman smiled and hooked Yao Dashin's shoulder, eliminating a lot of the estrangement just now. A faint blush crept across Yao Dashin's dark face. Although he had been stunned by Su Poman's prowess, he now realized that he had befriended such a powerful warrior. His future was sure to be prosperous. "Thank you very much, Brother Su. I'll have to ask you to take care of Hu Zi's affairs. Don't be so polite. It's too formal. Hu Zi is my nephew. I'll definitely make every effort to provide for him in the future." "Brother Su, are you a warrior?" "I suppose so." After a brief conversation, Yao Dashin returned home. Su Poman, under the awe-inspiring gazes of two red-clad men, entered the village. Following the main road, Su Poman arrived at a vast training ground. Over 100 red-clad disciples stood there, with Sun Wei and his 3 blue-clad warriors at the forefront. "Greetings, Master Su." "Greetings, Master Su." As if well-rehearsed, Chang Peng, the leader, shouted, and the 100 red-robed disciples behind him roared in unison, a commanding gesture. Su Poman waved his hand and walked over to Sun Wei and the other 2. "Are you all ready, Master Su?" "Everything is ready. The salt has been loaded onto the trucks, and we're just waiting for you to set off," Chang Peng said respectfully. Salt trafficking is a lucrative industry in Pu State. Not only do ordinary people need salt, but warriors also consume it in high quantities. The Heigan controls salt pits in 5 nearby counties, using the profits from selling salt to support the training of their warriors. Each county has a branch, which in turn manages several salt fields. At the beginning of each month, personnel are dispatched to collect the salt from the fields. "Let's set off, then. It's still early. By the way, which county is your headquarters located in, and how long will the journey take?" Su Poman asked. At this time, Sun Wei stepped forward and said respectfully, "The headquarters is in Kinglan County. If you ride the black-scaled horse at full speed, it will only take most of the day. However, if you bring the ox carts escorting the green salt from the rear, it will be slow. It will probably take 2 to 3 days. Lord Su, we have asked them to prepare a banquet in the village. Why don't you eat before leaving?" Su Poman looked at the sun in the sky and felt that it would be noon if they delayed eating any longer, so he shook his head and said, "Let's go directly." Yes, the 3 did not dare to object to Su Poman's opinion. After giving an order to the rear, 5 ox carts loaded with green salt slowly drove out from the rear under the control of the coachman. Chapter 11 Tea Stall. "Let's go, Master Su, please ride my horse." Wu Santong led his black-scaled horse to Su Poman's side and respectfully handed him the reins. Su Poman initially wanted to take the ox cart. After all, he had never ridden a horse before, but now that Wu Santong had given up his mount, he thought he could give it a try. Riding a horse with a sword on his back is something that everyone who has watched martial arts films yearns for, and Su Poman is no exception. Riding a horse is a skill that one must learn sooner or later. The black-scaled horse is quite tall, and it is very difficult for ordinary people to mount it. Su Poman grabbed the reins, stepped on the stirrup, and climbed on with ease. The black-scaled horse shook its body uneasily, as if it was not familiar with Su Poman and was a little resistant. Su Poman stroked the black-scaled horse's neck a few times, then gently squeezed his legs against the horse's belly, and the black-scaled horse started to move forward, but not very fast. Su Poman held the reins in one hand and the saddle in the other, feeling a slight sway. Due to his extremely strong constitution, he struggled to maintain a steady pace, but he didn't feel any discomfort. Sun Wei hurriedly led the way, while Lu Peng followed beside Su Poman, a body length behind. As for Wu Santong, he sat on the ox cart, feeling a slight pain in his chest. The convoy slowly set off, not moving very fast. "Master Su, the salt transport isn't a safe journey. While my Heigan can deter ordinary scoundrels, we also have our share of desperate criminals. Be cautious on the road," Lu Peng explained in her low voice. Su Poman nodded. He had some knowledge of the general situation in Pu State, and encountering road robbers was a common occurrence. Due to the presence of warriors, Pu State's official power couldn't reach the remote countryside, let alone the deep mountains and dense forests. Therefore, these days, long journeys required a personal support system, whether it was martial arts skills or a few armed companions. A blue flag, embroidered with a giant ocean wave in white, flew from the ox cart carrying the salt. Having the flags prevented many troubles, as the Hagang was the preeminent force within Liaoning County. On the way, Su Poman chatted with Lu Peng while admiring the surrounding scenery. This region resembled the southern regions of Blue Star Huaxia, where snow never fell year-round and the wild vegetation was incredibly lush. Verdant mountains and clear waters, lush forests and bamboos, wild trees and flowers, and unusual pines and rocks abounded in this beauty. A high stream cascaded down the cliff face, resembling a silver ribbon from afar. Occasionally, the branches above the dense forest moved, and faint white monkeys could be seen leaping from one tree trunk to another, their arms dangling. Brown deer drank from the pebbled stream, and occasionally fish leaped from the water, their scales glistening golden in the sunlight. A venomous emerald snake, hidden among the emerald green bamboo leaves, hissed softly as it flicked its tongue. It suddenly shot out and bit a small insect dancing in the air. The finger-thick snake slid from the leaves and landed squarely on the road, clearly visible to everyone. Its emerald green color stood out against the earthy yellow of the road. However, it seemed to know that humans were not to be trifled with, slithering swiftly into a pile of bamboo leaves by the roadside. A driver on the carriage exclaimed, "That's a bamboo green snake. Highly poisonous. Be careful." He pulled a packet of medicinal powder from his pocket and sprinkled it on the limbs of the oxen pulling the cart. This would deter snakes from approaching the caravan. Su Poman twitched his nose and recognized a packet of realgar powder. Its pungent odor was easily recognizable. The caravan reached midday and stopped at a roadside tea stall. It was the hottest time of the day, and everyone wanted to stop for a bite before continuing. The tea stall resembled a tent, covered with a white cloth. Behind it stood a dilapidated wooden hut. A 60-year-old man and a young boy were busy inside. Upon noticing the arrival of their customers, the servant quickly took out a rag and wiped the innermost table. "Warrior masters, please come in." 7 or 8 people were already drinking tea inside the stall. Upon seeing Su Poman and the others arrive, they quickly bowed their heads. One older, white-haired middle-aged man even ignored his companion's attempts to stop him and simply took his bag and left, leaving a copper coin on the table as payment. Since the place was not far from town, he didn't need to travel with anyone else. Warriors were untouchable to ordinary people. Their presence could spell disaster for them. The once bustling tea stall suddenly became silent, as if oppressed by something. Sun Wei pulled out a stool, spread his arms and said respectfully, "Master Su, please take a seat first. I'll go get some dishes." After Su Poman sat down, a pot of cold tea was quickly placed in front of him. Wu Santong personally carried the teapot and poured a bowl of tea into the large white ceramic bowl in front of Su Poman. "Don't be so formal. Please sit down." Su Poman took a sip of the cold tea and smiled faintly. This tea couldn't be said to be excellent, but it was undoubtedly the most thirst-quenching thing for people on the road in the scorching summer heat, and it was also quite popular among some vendors who traveled all year round. Not long after, a servant came over carrying a large basket filled with flatbreads and carefully placed it on the side of the table. Sun Wei also brought over a large bowl of braised beef from the kitchen, and the old shopkeeper, with an apologetic smile, brought over 2 plates of cold dishes, both of which were generous in portion. "Please wait, my dear guests. I'll go stir-fry a few more hot dishes and serve them right up," the old shopkeeper said with a smile, then half bent his body and slowly retreated. He was delighted by the arrival of the warriors. Warriors have huge appetites and rarely default on their food bills, so he made a lot of money. Su Poman was also surprised by the size of the food, but seeing that Sun Wei and the other 2 acted as if it were their due, he suppressed his doubts. Soon, 2 steaming hot meat dishes arrived, braised rabbit and steamed venison with rice flour. "Master Su, please eat first. If you're not satisfied, I'll go hunt some game in the mountains." Chang Peng held his chopsticks flat and handed them to Su Poman. Su Poman took the chopsticks, grabbed a flatbread, and began to eat with the braised beef in a small cold dish. As Su Poman picked up his chopsticks, the other 3 quickly followed suit, shoveling flatbreads into their mouths. He looked like a reincarnated hungry ghost. Su Poman had never practiced the martial arts of this world, so he wasn't familiar with the intricacies of it. In this world, a warrior's early training focuses heavily on ki and blood. Each exercise consumes a vast amount of energy, resulting in a prodigious appetite, 4 or 5 times that of an average person, and a need for meat. Each movement of ki and blood consumes stored energy, making them extremely dependent on food. Without adequate nutrition during cultivation, one can easily strain their body, causing Qi and blood to collapse and even a decline in martial arts prowess. In this world, the poor are devoted to literature, while the rich are devoted to martial arts. For an ordinary family, supporting a martial artist's training would be nearly impossible. Food alone could bankrupt the family, not to mention the precious medicinal herbs and priceless manuals needed to aid cultivation. Every martial arts-focused faction must control a source of revenue sufficient to sustain itself. Just like the He Gang, they profited immensely from the sale of green salt, which provided them with a capital to support their members. Other gangs and famous sects in the underworld all have their own sources of income. It is said that the masters who have reached the third level in those sects can eat a cow in one meal. Their horrific appetite is simply shocking. Chapter 12, Interception. Su Poman didn't eat much, so much so that Sun Wei and the others looked surprised when he put down his chopsticks. They also quickly stopped eating and exchanged glances. Master Su, is the food not to your liking? Sun Wei cautiously probed. Su Poman shook his head and said, the food is fine. I finished. You can do whatever you want, then, Master, we won't be polite, no problem. Su Poman didn't have a big need for food. Sunlight was all he needed to satisfy his body's needs. Food was just for satisfying his palate. Moreover, eating was a bit of a hassle for him. Every time he ate, he had to poop, and in this world, there was no soft toilet paper. The filthy toilet paper felt unsanitary and a bit disgusting to Su Poman. It had been fine before, being near the beach, so he could secretly go to the beach at night to wash up. But now, he had to use toilet paper or find large leaves to poop. If he stayed in the sun without eating, Su Poman wouldn't produce any waste. Sun Wei and the other three devoured their food voraciously, quickly devouring a basket of flatbreads and sweeping away the dishes on the table. After dinner, the three pushed aside their stools and sat on the floor, practicing their KO. The people at the tea stall didn't dare disturb them, their breathing subdued. Bored, Su Poman ventured out into the sun outside the tea stall. The sunlight made him grow stronger with each passing moment, his physical fitness constantly improving, the fundamental path to his strength. Soon, the three finished their KO, paid their bill with the old shopkeeper, and trotted over. Master Su, sorry to have kept you waiting, Lu Peng said apologetically. Su Poman waved his hand, saying, it's okay. I'll be fine basking in the sun. Now that we are done, let's get going. Yes, Master Su, the three responded, and the convoy quickly resumed its journey. The ox cart driver remained on the carriage, eating lunch on the dry rations he'd packed before setting off. They were accustomed to this kind of life. The He Gang's headquarters was in Kingland County. Traveling from Liaoning County to Kingland County required passing through the border with another gang. Normally, they took a detour for safety reasons, but this time, Su Poman didn't want to waste too much time on the road, so he opted for one. We're just ahead of the Wujian gang, Master Su. We must proceed with caution, Lu Peng warned. Su Poman nodded dismissively, figuring that no matter how powerful the Wujian gang might be, their leader wouldn't dare to rob a small salt transport. As for the other minions, Su Poman dismissed them. Even if a gang leader, a 6th-rank warrior, came along, it was doubtful he'd get anything out of him. The convoy, carrying the He Gang's flag, passed through the territory of their sworn enemy, the Wujian gang, making it a conspicuous sight. Soon, news of the He Gang's salt transport appeared on the desk of a Wujian gang leader. Damn it! These He Gang bastards really don't take our Wujian gang seriously. They just had a fight over Luanshan Valley territory 2 years ago, and now they dare to trespass here. Tiger, gather all the idle men in the hall and come with me to meet them. A glint of malice flashed in the eyes of Hall Master Gongsun. One of his nephews had died in that fight 2 years ago, and as a result, he harbored a deep hostility towards the He Gang. The Wujian gang's Hall Master was equivalent to the He Gang's green-robed deacon, possessing the strength of an 8th-rank warrior. With the addition of over a dozen 9th-rank warriors within the hall, he felt a sure win, certain to put a dent in the He Gang's prestige. The salt transport convoy moved slowly along a road flanked by bamboo forests. Sun Wei, leading the way, surveyed the surroundings with extreme caution. Wu Santong, aboard the ox cart, sat up straight and surveyed the surroundings. Although Su Poman was formidable, they were also concerned about the Wujian gang's underhanded tactics. Someone's coming. Though the Wujian gang members were well hidden, they couldn't hide from Su Poman, who possessed supervision and super hearing. He raised his right hand, signaling the caravan to stop, then shouted into the dense forest, "Since you're here, come out and see." Upon hearing Su Poman's words, Sun Wei hurriedly rode back to the caravan, his broadsword drawn, and peered warily into the depths of the forest. Pa! Gong Xingyu clapped his hands as he emerged from the depths of the forest, a sinister smile on his face, his eyes gazing at the crowd like a venomous snake lurking in the darkness. "Oh no. That's a Wujian gang leader?" Lu Peng said in a deep voice, his face growing nervous after noticing the string of ornaments around Gong Xinyu's waist. "Not bad, you could spot that. You don't look like a He gang member in your clothes, so how did you end up in the He gang's salt transport?" Gong Xinyu squinted at Su Poman with cold eyes, a hint of curiosity in his gaze. Generally, the members of He gang would wear clothes of different colors to distinguish their different positions. Su Poman, who could spot their traces right before his eyes, aroused his vigilance. Gong Xinyu had been in the underworld for many years and was extremely experienced. He subconsciously sensed something unusual, so he spoke to test it out. Otherwise, he would have taken action directly. Su Poman was dressed very ordinary, like a farmer from the village. He wore a coarse linen shirt on the upper body and black sweatpants and sneakers on the lower body. These two pieces of clothing came with him through the time travel. They had been washed dozens of times in the past year and now looked a bit worn. However, he was riding a black scaled horse, and his fair skin, which did not look like he often worked in the fields, caught Gong Xinyi's attention. "As for me, I just joined the He gang and haven't gone to get my clothes yet," Su Poman said casually. Gong Xinyu burst into laughter upon hearing this, folding his arms and stepping forward. "So you're a new recruit? How dare you trespass on my Wujian gang? Each of you lose an arm, and this is over." Behind him, a dozen or so Wujian gang 9th rank warriors also shouted, swords drawn. The momentum was so overwhelming that the driver of the ox cart was so frightened that he huddled against the frame and trembled. Those who haven't faced the fierceness of the enemy can't understand the pressure of an impending bloody conflict. Although Sun Wei and the other three looked grim, they all drew their weapons, clearly showing their courage beyond that of ordinary people. Moreover, they believed that with Su Poman here, they were not without a fight. Seeing the three blue-clad men draw their weapons, Gong Xinyu raised his brow and sneered, "Haha, I didn't expect you're such a tough guy. Since you don't want to lose your arms, then give up your lives, go." With a wave of his hand, the 16 9th rank warriors behind him rushed out with swords and surrounded Su Poman and the other three, their eyes gleaming with fierceness. Su Poman looked relaxed, giving Gong Xinyu a deep glance. Then, with a fleeting glance, he moved, a ghost to the warriors, their eyes often only able to see a fleeting shadow before they lost consciousness. Bang, bang, bang. After a series of muffled thuds, all the Wujian gang members lay on the ground, leaving only the hall master standing. A huge update will be coming on June 20th, so please support us and don't forget to vote, collect, and invest. Chapter 13 5 Major Sects. A drop of cold sweat trickled down Gong Xinyu's forehead. Snap! The bean-sized drop of sweat rolled down, hitting a bamboo leaf with a soft sound that was striking in the still air. The surroundings were deathly silent. "This," Sun Wei stammered, breaking the silence. "It seems Lord Su's strength is even greater than we anticipated." The other two nodded solemnly. Gong Xinyu swallowed, not even thinking. He turned and ran, his movements fluid and flowing, as if he had practiced them countless times. What kind of monster is this? His mind was a blur, but his most pressing thought was to escape quickly and report this expert. "Where are you going?" Su Poman stopped before Gong Xinyu, looking at him with a half-smile. Gong Xinyu's heart was pounding, but he had no choice but to go ahead. His words had been so harsh, and even surrendering now would not end well. This is the unspoken rule of the martial arts world. When a fight between two factions reaches a point of seeking life, even if one side concedes defeat, it will be ruthlessly killed by the other. This isn't about decisive killing, but rather about eliminating the root of the problem, preventing any madman from recklessly seeking revenge against their family and friends. Furthermore, a warrior with a soft heart won't last long in the martial arts world. With resolute murderous intent, Gong Xinyu roared, his eyes red. "I'll fight you." The spear from his back instantly shot out, roaring like a sea dragon, a faint yellow light illuminating the tip, and the speed was incredible. This strike, infused with internal energy and martial arts, was so powerful that even a huge rock would be shattered by it. This is a mid-grade Wong-level martial art from the Wujian gang. What a powerful force! As expected of an 8th grade warrior, Lu Peng exclaimed inwardly, his pupils shrinking. This martial arts move was so swift that the onlookers barely had time to marvel before the gleaming yellow spear pierced Su Poman's face. To Su Poman, it seemed as if everything had been deliberately slowed down. With a slight tilt of his head, he dodged the incoming spear. Then, with a light, flickering grip of two fingers, the spear's momentum continued. However, the tip of the spear was blocked, and the entire shaft instantly bent. Under Gong Xin Yi's incredulous gaze, Su Poman gripped the tip of the spear and thrust forward. The spear seemed to reach its limit, the rebound force knocking Gong Xin Yi's hands away as the end of the shaft struck him hard in the throat. Puff! The spear spun through the air before suddenly dropping to rest beside Gong Xin Yi. Gong Xin Yi fell to his knees with a thud, his hands clutching his throat. Blood gushed from his mouth and nose, a look of horror lingering in his eyes. Finally, his eyes dimmed, and his upper body collapsed to the ground, breathless. Blood gushed from his mouth and nose, quickly staining the soil beneath him. This was Su Poman's first time killing someone, and he felt a strange feeling in his heart. Turning around, he calmed down a bit before saying, "Dispose of the body. Ignore those minions for now." Yes, Lu Peng had originally considered killing the dozen or so ninth-rank warriors on the ground to eliminate any further trouble, but after hearing Su Poman's order, he didn't even have the courage to suggest anything and could only obey. Sun Wei and the others looked at Su Poman with even more respect. They swiftly confiscated the belongings of Gong Xin Yi and the other ninth-rank warriors, uncovering a considerable amount of silver coins. Wu Santong put the coins into a large purse and handed it to Su Poman. Other miscellaneous items were placed on the ox cart. Gong Xin Yi's waist ornament was removed and handed to Su Poman as a token of his contribution to the gang. After all, killing a Wujiang gang leader was a significant contribution to the He gang. Sun Wei felt a pity as he looked at the unconscious Wujiang gang members. Killing them all would surely have earned him a significant amount of gang contribution points. However, since Su Poman had no intention of inciting further bloodshed, he had no choice. The convoy set out again, and once outside Wujiang gang territory, the journey became much smoother. Since they avoided detours, the convoy arrived at a town outside Kinglan County by nightfall, a journey that would normally take 2 days. Su Poman planned to rest there for the night and rest up before continuing the next day. Sun Wei arranged lodging, and the ox cart was parked in a courtyard. The three of them took turns keeping watch that night. Su Poman enjoyed a few drinks with the two men who weren't on duty. From them, he learned some rumors about the Jianghu, gaining a general understanding of the martial arts world. There are 5 major sects within the Pu Kingdom, 3 righteous sects, Yijian Palace, Xiandao sect, and Jujing Gang, and 2 demonic sects, Zuayan sect and Kangling Hall. Martial arts are divided into 9 levels. The first level is the Grand Master, who has achieved the great perfection of internal ki. This is now a legend in the martial arts world. Pu State hasn't had a martial artist reach this level in decades. It's rumored that a martial artist at this level, if able to achieve another breakthrough, will be able to enter the immortal sect and practice true immortal techniques. The second level is what the martial arts world calls the Grand Master level. Even within the 5 sects, these masters are considered rare and rarely seen. The third level represents the leaders of the 5 major sects. They are all giants in the martial arts world, and a single word can shake the entire Pu State. The He Gang, on the other hand, is merely a small sect within Pu State. Its leader is a 6th-level martial artist, dependent on the giant whale gang for survival. A subordinate gang, they pay a substantial tribute of gold and silver to the giant whale gang annually. Despite this, the He Gang is a tycoon within the 5 counties, able to get whatever they want. Even the county lieutenant treats the He Gang leader as a guest of honor. The next morning, Su Poman woke up, put on his clothes and walked out of the door. After breakfast, the group set off again. This town is not far from Kinglan County. Before noon, a city made of blue stone appeared in front of Su Poman. There were 3 doorways at the bottom, 1 large and 2 small, 4 pedestrians and 2 vehicles to pass through. Because of the flag of the He Gang, the soldiers guarding the door did not even need to check and let the convoy pass directly into the city. The road was smooth and unobstructed, and both pedestrians and vehicles gave way. This shows that the He Gang has accumulated considerable power in Kinglan County for many years. There are shops on both sides of the road. Restaurants, wine shops, tailor shops, blacksmith shops, etc., are set up in different areas, forming the division between the East Market and the West Market. The East Market primarily houses shops, selling everything from cloth and silk to pawnshops and restaurants. The West Market boasts a vast vegetable market, where vendors gather to sell seasonal fruits and vegetables. Other vendors also sell fish, shrimp, pork, and even a few horse stalls. Despite its small size, it boasts a comprehensive offering. The small Kingland County town thrives, already bearing the resemblance of a larger city. The Haigang's headquarters is located at the junction of the East and West Markets. The county lieutenant has designated a large area for the Haigang's headquarters. This area is also renowned for its luxurious homes in Kingland County. Many prominent local figures choose to purchase residences near the Haigang headquarters, claiming it offers significantly greater security than those near the county lieutenant's office. Rumor has spread that thieves dare to go to the county lieutenant's office, but not the Haigang. This indirect evidence demonstrates that under the Haigang's powerful presence, public security in the surrounding area is exceptionally high. Of course, every time a festival comes, the local gentry or businessmen will take the initiative to give some gifts to the Haigang. Chapter 14 Haigang. The convoy slowly passed through a vast area of pavilions and towers, and a city within a city emerged before them. Carved into the stone wall above the gate were the three large characters Hay City, their handwriting resembling a broadsword stroke, adding a touch of unadorned elegance. Hay City's walls were incredibly high, even taller than the county lieutenant's mansion. A group of red-robed disciples patrolled the walls, interspersed with a few ninth-rank warriors in blue, maintaining a tight security posture. Judging by its layout, it looked less like an ordinary gang and more like a small, entrenched local lord. The gates were open, though a set of chevaux de frise had been placed before them. 6 burly red-robed men, armed with broadswords, stood guard. Their sword-holding was unusual, the hilts rested in their palms, the blades held inverted against their chests. The 6 red-robed disciples stood neatly at the entrance, their gazes fixedly on the ground, their expressions solemn. Sun Wei rode his horse to the front, pulled out a wooden sign from his arms, and waved it. Immediately, 4 red-robed disciples rushed forward and moved the chevaux de frise. The convoy then slowly entered. After entering the city walls, a wide road paved with white flagstones stretched across 2 sides, flanked by martial arts training grounds where numerous disciples were currently engaged in training. To the east stood the blue-clad disciples, to the west the red-clad ones. From time to time, bursts of shouting and fighting echoed with a powerful atmosphere. Further in from the main road, a residential area with a patchwork of brownstone houses appeared. Further in, the attic area served as the living quarters for the blue-clad deacons. When the convoy arrived, a dark-haired elder in blue was already waiting. He held something resembling an account book, writing and drawing on it with a wolf hairbrush. "Which salt field?" the old man asked in a hoarse voice, without even raising his eyelids. Sun Wei respectfully replied, "Master Liu, these truckloads of green salt are from the 7th salt field in Liaoning County. Well, go to the warehouse. Remember to give me the weight card when you come out." The dark-haired elder, known as Deacon Liu, replied calmly. "Don't worry, Elder Liu. We don't need to worry about the rules," Sun Wei replied, leading the convoy towards the warehouse. "Wait," Deacon Liu suddenly stopped Sun Wei's black-scaled horse with a hand. He raised his head and pointed at Su Poman, asking indifferently, "Why did you bring an outsider back this time, Elder Liu?" "You misunderstood. This is a master we met in Liaoning County. He has long admired our Haigang. Once this guy is in the warehouse, we'll take him to see the leader," Sun Wei explained with a smile. HMPH, Deacon Liu's face suddenly turned serious, and he scolded angrily, "Do you know that the warehouse is a protected area and outsiders are not allowed to enter?" "Huh?" Sun Wei was stunned for a moment, then nodded quickly. "Elder Liu is right. I was inconsiderate. Please forgive me, Master Su. Please wait outside. We'll take you to see our leader as soon as we exit the warehouse," Sun Wei said apologetically. "You guys go ahead, I'll wait here," Su Poman said nonchalantly, still surveying his surroundings, deeply interested in this Jianghu gang. The layout here was completely different from the gang headquarters he'd seen in martial arts films. It was shrouded in an awe, its every detail ingeniously crafted. Deacon Liu, his nose in the air, tapped the account book twice with a wolf hairbrush. He then glanced at Su Poman with a hint of disdain. "Tisk, tisk, these days, everyone wants to join our Haigang. It's really out of control." Deacon Liu's tone was peculiar, and though his voice was very low, Su Poman heard it. Su Poman chuckled softly, not wanting to get angry with such a stubborn old man. Often, when such people have something to be proud of, they'll do everything they can to show it, looking down on others. Little did they know, perhaps among those they despised was someone who looked down on them. Not long after, Sun Wei and the other two emerged from the warehouse and handed a wooden sign to Deacon Liu. "Master Su, we're sorry to have kept you waiting. Please come with the three of us to meet the gang leader," Lu Peng said respectfully. Thinking that with Su Poman's strength, he could at least get the status of a purple-robed elder in the gang, the three of them could be considered to have a backer. In the He gang, there are now a total of 5 purple-robed elders, each of whom represents a major faction. Although they appear to be harmonious on the surface, they are constantly fighting in secret for resources and missions. If one can become a direct descendant of a purple-robed elder, then not only can one obtain more resources in the He gang, but also have a better chance of being exposed to the gang's advanced martial arts, thus getting a chance to be promoted. The three of them led the way in front, and Su Poman followed slowly behind. They passed through a courtyard area, and in front of them was a large hall with golden tiles and red walls. Above the hall hung a plaque with the 3 big characters He gang inscribed on it. 2 deacons in blue were standing in front of the door of the hall. When they saw everyone coming, a middle-aged man with triangular eyes said, "The gang leader is discussing important matters with Elder Feng. If you have anything to report, please come back tomorrow. If it is urgent, I can inform them on their behalf, but if the matter to be reported is insignificant, you will have to bear the blame for disturbing the gang leader and Elder Feng." This, Sun Wei looked back at Lu Peng and Wu Santong, and finally thought about it, gritted his teeth, and insisted, "Deacon Zhang, please pass on the message and say that there is something important to report." Inside the hall, under a huge bronze statue of half-man and half-whale, 2 rows of candles illuminated the main hall. "Quan gang leader, I've heard from disciples at Dangfang Mansion that we're bringing 300 elite disciples with us when we pay tribute to the giant whale gang this time." The speaker was a gaunt, elderly man in a purple robe. His hair was graying, but his eyes were as bright and clear as a young man's, without a trace of cloudiness. Even more striking was his right palm. It was unusually large, resembling a bear's paw, and its color was a grayish-white. His left, however, was the size of an average person's. As he spoke, he took a sip from his teacup. Seated at the main seat nearby was a towering figure, his arms as thick as a man's thighs. His mere presence gave off a powerful, oppressive vibe. He was fiddling with his teacup, a brow raised. Oh? Could the giant whale gang be recruiting new disciples? Yes, indeed. The giant whale gang and the Kanglang Hall have been clashing in the northwest for years, and we've lost quite a few men. We need a boost, the purple-robed elder said gravely. Guan Shanhei's face showed joy, and he said slowly, "I hope that more disciples can be selected this time, then the share of elixirs issued by the giant whale gang will also increase, and I will have the resources to make a breakthrough." "Boss, your Dilangju is about to break through." The purple-clothed old man quickly put down his teacup and said in surprise, "Doesn't that mean I will enter the 5th level?" Before he finished speaking, there were footsteps outside the door. With the realm of the 2 people, they heard the movement early and stopped talking. The purple-clothed old man frowned. He was discussing important matters with a boss, and someone interrupted him at this time. He felt a little unhappy. "Report to the boss, there are several blue-clothed disciples outside who said they have important things to report." Zhang Jing's knelt in the middle of the hall and said loudly. Guan Shanhei's eyes flashed with a strange color, and he said, "Let them in." "Yes. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15 Fighting. Zhang Jing exited the hall and approached the door. His expression betrayed no emotion as he waved to Sun Wei and the others. "The gang leader is letting you in." Sun Wei nodded, bowed slightly, and then entered the hall. As the 3 entered, their heads dropped, their bodies involuntarily half-bending, appearing extremely reserved. "Greetings to the gang leader, greetings to Elder Feng." Entering the main hall, the 3 immediately prostrated themselves on the ground, paying respectful obeisance. Elder Feng's anger subsided somewhat at the sight of their respectful demeanor, but upon catching sight of Su Poman standing tall behind them, a glint of anger flashed in his eyes. "Who are you, and why don't you kneel and salute me?" Elder Feng demanded, his eyes widening. His once thin frame seemed to swell as his aura surged through him, creating a powerful impression. A 7th rank warrior was already capable of channeling internal energy to encompass his entire being. With a surging energy, every move unleashed immense power. Su Poman smiled faintly, not caring at all. He turned his head and looked directly into Guan Shanhei's eyes, saying calmly, "Boss Guan, I've been cultivating in the mountains for a long time. I just came out of the mountains and heard that the He Gang is famous, so I want to join the He Gang and get a position." "Is that possible, boss? Lord Su is very powerful. He killed a hall master of the Wujiang Gang effortlessly on the road. It was only after the three of us brothers strongly invited him that he was willing to go back to the headquarters with us." "You can find someone to test Lord Su's strength," Sun Wei said respectfully. These few simple words not only pointed out Su Poman's strength, but also mentioned the contributions of the three of them. He can be regarded as a smart person who knows how to do things. Oh? Being able to easily kill an 8th grade warrior, then the strength must be at the level of an elder. Not bad. What is this brother's name? Guan Shanhei rarely smiled, and his eyes were full of admiration when he looked at Su Poman. "My name is Su Poman, from Lianian County. I've been training in the mountains with my master since childhood, and I've only recently come down," Su Poman replied with a smile. He had thought of these words while on the road. A clear explanation of his origins would help dispel any doubts. "So it's Brother Su. Since you're quite capable, why don't you challenge Elder Feng to a duel?" Guan Shanhei was also somewhat excited about Su Poman's abilities. Judging from his young age, if he could reach the 7th rank, he would be a true martial arts genius. If he could send a martial arts prodigy to the giant whale gang, the He Gang would receive more resources, and he, as the leader, would also benefit greatly. "Then I will test this young man's caliber." Elder Feng looked Su Poman over, rose from his seat, and walked to the center of the hall, extending a hand in a gesture of invitation. Sun Wei and the other two tactfully retreated to the side of the hall, looking up at the two figures in the center. Su Poman didn't hesitate. With incredible speed, he launched a punch forward. It was an ordinary punch. Guan Shanhei, in a higher position, saw his eyes change the moment Su Poman made his move. He was shocked. "That's much faster than me. How could it be impossible? He looks no more than 20. How could he possibly be a 6th rank warrior?" Guan Shanhei watched the changes intently. Elder Feng, upon seeing the incoming punch, knew he had been overconfident. He quickly mobilized his ki and blood. Like a balloon, his muscles swelled, transforming him from a skinny old man into a robust, built man. "Ha!" Pushing Mountain Palm, Elder Feng swung his right hand, channeling his internal ki and unleashing his renowned technique. A faint green light emanated from his thick, gray-white palm, as thick as a bear's paw, and the sound of waves seemed to emanate from it. "That's the internal energy technique, the Dilangju. I didn't expect Elder Feng's Dilangju to have reached such a level, capable of unleashing triple strength power. Lord Su seems in danger." Sun Wei, though narrow-eyed, discerned the power of the palm strike. Su Poman's expression remained calm, his fist devoid of any light as he charged directly into the massive palm. Bang! A muffled sound erupted as the fists collided. Su Poman felt the immense force followed by 3 unpredictable, continuous waves of force. However, his current physique was unmatched by that of an ordinary person, and his body remained as firm as a nail, not retreating an inch. Meanwhile, Elder Feng, after his initial attack, failed to repel Su Poman. Instead, he retreated several steps before stabilizing himself, suffering a significant recoil. Elder Feng stared at Su Poman, who remained motionless, in astonishment. His expression shifted, a touch of embarrassment lingering. However, recalling the feeling of being struck by that punch, the embarrassment vanished. He shrank, gathered his strength, and then bowed solemnly, saying, "Heroes are truly born young. Thank you, young friend Su, for holding back." "I admit defeat." Su Poman, realizing Elder Feng's palm strike posed no threat, had quickly restrained his strength, fearing he would kill the purple-robed elder with a single blow. Su Poman bowed and smiled faintly. "Thank you, you actually won. It seems Lord Su's strength is even greater than we anticipated." A hint of joy crossed Lu Peng's previously expressionless face. "Well done. Brother Su, welcome to our He Gang. I, Guan Shanhei, will treat you as our deputy gang leader." Guan Shanhei praised him profusely and stepped down from his perch. Guan Shanhei's expression remained impassive, but his heart was beaming with joy. While he couldn't discern Su Poman's martial arts from their recent exchange, judging by his effortless performance, he knew he had undoubtedly reached the realm of a 6th-rank warrior. If such a young talent joined the He Gang, and they recommended him to the Giant Whale Gang when they pay tribute 6 months later, the Giant Whale Gang would surely reward him generously. At that moment, Elder Feng, understanding Guan Shanhei's intention, hurried forward and said with a smile, "Congratulations, young friend Su. You've just arrived and become our He Gang's deputy leader. Your future is limitless, Master Su. Congratulations." Sun Wei and the others hurried over to offer their congratulations. Su Poman hadn't expected Guan Shanhei to appoint him as deputy leader so soon after his arrival. After all, promotions in the He Gang required contributions, but who could have imagined he would be promoted so quickly, becoming deputy leader? Su Poman naturally had no idea what was going on, but since he was already there, he took it easy. A smile spread across his face, and he responded to everyone's congratulations one by one. "I have a question. How old is gang leader Su this year?" Elder Feng asked, curiosity flashing across his face. Su Poman pondered for a moment, then said, "Elder Feng, I should be 19 this year." 19, Guan Shanhei and Elder Feng exchanged a glance, each seeing the shock in the other's eyes. A 6th-rank warrior at 19, this talent is rare to come by in 500 years, Elder Feng exclaimed in admiration, once again sizing Su Poman up and down, his eyes filled with amazement. Martial arts are a journey of continuous refinement. Even if someone begins practicing martial arts as soon as they can walk, it takes over a decade to lay the foundation, not only to increase their ki and blood, but also to cultivate their internal energy. Therefore, even for core disciples of major sects, it's difficult to accelerate this process unless they possess a unique constitution, are born into a major sect, and have been nourished with precious tonics since childhood. Just like Guan Shanhei, who has reached the 6th-grade warrior at the age of 35, he is already considered a relatively talented figure in the martial arts world. People with ordinary qualifications at this age can only be 8th-grade warriors at most, and those who have reached the 4th-grade warrior are usually over 50 years old. Chapter 16, Night Banquet. The vitality of ordinary people declines after the age of 45, but martial artists are different. Possessing internal energy techniques not only preserves their vitality and prevents illness, but also prolongs their lifespan through the nourishment of internal energy. Living to the age of 150, or even 200, is common. Many renowned figures in the martial arts world, even top-tier warriors at the 3rd-grade level, are over 100 years old. Guan Shanhei's expression grew even more welcoming. He approached and warmly grasped Su Poman's hand, saying with a smile, "I'm a few years older than you. If you don't mind, you can call me Brother Guan. From now on, just treat this He Gang headquarters like your own. Tonight, I'll host a banquet for you and announce your appointment as deputy gang leader." "Brother Guan, you're so polite. I'll be happy to take care of you from now on." Su Poman felt a little uncomfortable with Guan Shanhei's enthusiasm, but he couldn't bring himself to forcibly withdraw his hand. "Come here, prepare a banquet. Call all the important people in Kinglan County tonight to meet our new deputy gang leader." Elder Feng clapped his hands and ordered. 2 deacons in green came out of the side hall. After receiving the order, they quickly walked out of the main hall and began to arrange related matters. In the main hall, Su Poman sat in the seat closest to Guan Shanhei, drinking tea and chatting with Feng Changleo. Feng Moshan was an old and experienced man who had been in the martial arts world for many years. He kept throwing out some topics of mutual interest, some secret anecdotes in the martial arts world, which quickly narrowed the distance between Su Poman and everyone, and the scene was very harmonious. After night fell, fireworks kept going up and exploding. Hay City was brightly lit, and carriages and horses came one after another. Even the other 4 purple-robed elders who were in charge of the 4 directions rode their black-scaled horses back to Hay City in a hurry, just to meet the new deputy gang leader. The martial arts arena in front of a large hall was now filled with banquets, with red cloth spread on the ground. The wealthy and powerful people in Kinglan County, and even the county government, had sent people with gifts. After the sound of a gong, the noisy scene suddenly quieted down, and Guan Shanhei took Su Poman to the high platform. "Today is a big day for my He Gang. Su Poman, Brother Su will become the deputy leader of my He Gang. Thank you all for coming to this banquet. My He Gang has gained another major pillar. Leader Su will also have the power to mobilize all affairs in Kinglan County. I hope everyone present can cooperate in the future. I won't say more. Enjoy your meal. Guan Shanhe held Su Poman in one hand and a wine glass in the other on the high platform. His voice echoed throughout the martial arts arena. After that, he pulled Su Poman to the table. Congratulations to gang leader Guan on gaining another strong supporter. Well said, gang leader Guan. This gang leader Su looks so young. He's already reached the level of deputy gang leader. Wow, the He gang is about to expand. Many in the audience raised their glasses and offered congratulatory words. In the crowd, the steward named Liu, who had been in charge of the warehouse during the day, lost all color when he saw Su Poman on the podium. His heart trembled. And as he recalled his behavior that day, cold sweat streamed down his forehead. He was just a warehouse steward, and due to his age, he had no chance of achieving a breakthrough in this lifetime. Now, he had accidentally offended the deputy gang leader, and his future in the He gang might be difficult. He probably didn't hear what I said, stewed Deacon Liu, feeling extremely regretful. He emptied his glass of wine in one gulp and quietly left the scene. Brother Su, you will live in the courtyard east of the main hall from now on. Someone will arrange it for you later. That courtyard is closest to me. If you have anything to do, just tell the stewards to do it. You don't have to worry about it yourself, Guan Shanhe said with a smile. Su Poman raised his wine glass and replied with a smile, then I'd be very sorry to refuse. Haha, I toast to Brother Guan. Okay, cheers, cheers. The banquet lasted until late at night. Due to his physical condition, Su Poman's alcohol tolerance increased greatly, but he pretended to be drunk and was taken to his residence. The surroundings fell into darkness. On the soft bed, Su Poman suddenly opened his eyes penetrating the walls to look at where Guan Shanhe was. Guan Shanhe was already a little drunk at this time. Since there was no one around, he held his concubine in one hand and spoke from time to time. That's great. With such a genius recommending me to the giant whale gang, I will definitely be able to get a lot of resources with my contribution. Not to mention becoming a 5th rank warrior, I can even hope to become a 4th rank warrior in this lifetime. Ha ha ha. My fortune has come, and Su Poman can be considered my benefactor. Su Poman listened silently for a while, and only felt relieved when he learned that the other party had no bad intentions. After all, he was a newcomer, so he had to be on guard against others. Although he was powerful, he was also afraid of those calculations hidden in the dark. After confirming that the people from the He gang had no bad intentions towards him, Su Poman closed his eyes and fell asleep. The next morning, Su Poman had just woken up, and after noticing the movement outside the door, 2 pretty girls with fair skin, about 17 or 18 years old, walked in. Young Master Su, we are the maids assigned to you by the gang leader. My name is Gadir, and hers is Ruzu. Let us help you get up and dress. The slightly older girl introduced herself, then gracefully approached, holding a gorgeous white robe trimmed with gold, to help Su Poman change clothes. Gadir had a tiny mole at the corner of her eyes like a clear spring, and her features were exquisite, rivaling the campus beauties Su Poman had seen on the university campus. Ruzu followed behind, carrying a copper basin, her head tilted, seeming rather reserved. Her delicate fingers were incredibly white and tender in the morning light, like freshly peeled scallions. Her figure and appearance could be summed up in 3 words: fair, young, and thin. Although the 2 girls were young, they seemed to have been specially trained and were very skilled in serving others. Su Poman felt an inexplicable heat as the 2 youthful girls dressed him and wiped his face. While changing clothes, Su Poman's incredibly toned muscles made the 2 girls blush. Ruzu's ears were as red as if they were engorged with blood, which made her look very cute. As the saying goes, clothes make the man, and saddles make the horse. After Su Poman changed into a brand new white robe, he looked quite heroic and his appearance seemed to have improved a lot, which attracted the 2 girls' attention. Although Kamir and the others were bought by Yahan, since they were young and trained to be maids to serve others since they could remember, they did not lose their own personalities. They also had their own likes and dislikes. It was much better to be with such a handsome and powerful young man than to serve a fat and wealthy businessman who was covered in grease and touched them. Su Poman walked out the door and took a breath of the fresh morning air, which finally suppressed the restlessness he had felt when changing clothes. This courtyard was Su Poman's residence at the He gang headquarters. 2 blue-robed deacons stood outside at all times, ready to dispatch him. He also wore an iron plate dangling from his waist, which he could use to mobilize He gang members. Just then, a blue-robed deacon entered the courtyard and said respectfully, "Master Su, I'm Wu Huan. You can always call on me or Gao Yu if you need anything. 3 blue-robed disciples are waiting outside, here to pay their respects to you early this morning. Would you mind letting them in?" "Let them in," Su Poman said calmly. "Also, go get me a recliner." "Yes, I'll do it right away." Wu Huan respectfully exited the courtyard. "It's almost time to sign a contract. I hope you will give me some monthly tickets. Each monthly ticket can be exchanged for a small maid from Su Poman. May you harvest more and use your kidney treasures in time." Chapter 17. The contract was signed successfully. "Please give me a monthly ticket." "Monthly tickets can be exchanged for the little maid. Go ahead, brothers." With the support of brothers who still have monthly tickets, Su Poman bows here and painfully shares the ability of supervision with you. Don't use the perspective eyes carelessly when going out. Chapter 18. The magical uses of supervision. Sun Wei, Lu Peng, and Wu Santong entered, clutching gifts of varying sizes. Kabir and Ruzu stepped forward to receive them. "Greetings, Boss Su," the 3 knelt together. "Rise. Tell Elder Feng you'll be working under me from now on." Su Poman, fully aware of their purpose, spoke slowly, looking at them. As he finished speaking, the 3's faces lit up with delight. Wu Santong was the most surprised, having been surprised by Su Poman's willingness to let him stay. "I have a task for you. 2 of you will go to Liaoning County and bring Yao Dashan and his family of 3 to Kinglan County. Remember to take good care of them on the way and don't be rude. Once in Kinglan County, buy them a house near the Hegang headquarters and settle them there. You should know Yao Dashan. He's the dark-faced man who was with me at the Saltworks gate the other day. His family lives in Bishan village, near the Saltworks." As Su Poman finished speaking, Wu Santong immediately stepped forward and said, "Boss Su, I'll go. I'll make sure this job goes well for you." Wu Santong looked eager, as if he wanted to use this opportunity to atone for his previous mistakes and improve his impression of Su Poman. "Santong and I will go together, Boss Su. Don't worry, we'll make sure everything is arranged for Master Yao and his family." Lu Peng stepped forward and said respectfully. Sun Wei looked up at Lu Peng, somewhat surprised. He had never expected this seemingly honest guy to be so decisive when it came to grabbing work. "Master Yao, tisk, this guy is so shameless," Sun Wei thought to himself. With this thought, he stepped out respectfully, his expression a touch of seriousness and caution, and said, "Boss Su, I'm also willing to go and pick up Master Yao and his family. I'll definitely be able to settle my sister-in-law and nephew in Kinglan County. Master Yao will also have a sinecure position at the Hegang headquarters, and he will be able to pay him a lot of money every month." Lu Peng's face was strange. He really wanted to give Sun Wei a thumbs up. "Sun Ergao, you're worthy of it." Su Poman was slightly stunned. He didn't expect the 3 people in front of him to be so enthusiastic, even competing for the work. He was a little speechless. "Wu Santong, Lu Peng, you take 10 red-clothed disciples to Liaoning County to pick up Yao Dashan and his family. Be careful on the way." As soon as Su Poman finished speaking, he tossed a purse to the 2 men. Wu Santong and Lu Peng's faces lit up with joy, and they quickly replied, "Yes, Boss Su, we will definitely escort Lord Yao and his family back safely." They took their leave first. Before leaving, Lu Peng glanced at Sun Wei with a hint of pride, even his steps quickening. Sun Wei, on the other hand, looked up at Su Poman with a look of longing, like a dog longing to play frisbee in the yard. "Don't worry, you have things to do too." Su Poman smiled helplessly. "Boss, please tell me what you want, and I'll see to it." Sun Wei's eyes gleamed with anticipation. The 3 of them had joined the ranks of a 6th-rank warrior. If they had nothing to do, they would be sidelined, their relationship with him unable to advance to a position of confidant. In Sun Wei's view, only by constantly working for the superior and demonstrating their value could they become a sought-after figure around him, thereby facilitating advancement. "Find me a teacher in the county. I want someone to teach me how to read and write. Also, buy me any books you can find on the market," Su Poman ordered. Reading and writing, how strange. Why would gang leader Su learn such useless things? Although Sun Wei was extremely puzzled, he immediately agreed. After leaving the courtyard, he hurried to do his business. After enjoying the breakfast carefully prepared by the maid, Su Poman went to Guan Shanhe for some tea. Guan Shanhe explained some matters concerning the He gang. The 2 did not talk for long before Guan Shanhe received a letter and went out. Returning to his own courtyard, Su Poman lay on a lounge chair in the yard to bask in the sun. Kabir and Ruzu stood on either side, one constantly patting his shoulders, while the other carefully peeled and washed a bunch of grapes and fed them to him. This life is so boring, Su Poman thought to himself, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up in an inexplicable arc. He saw the round breasts on Kabir's chest with his slightly narrowed eyes, and his heart warmed. I really didn't realize that this girl is quite attractive. He turned his head and glanced at Ruzu again, swallowed his saliva. Brother Guan is such a good person. This pair of maids are probably the best in the industry, not to mention that they are unopened, which makes them even more precious. The ability of supervision is also wonderful. Sir, why don't we go inside? The weather is getting hotter and hotter. You see the big sun outside. It will probably be colder inside. Kabir gently wiped the sweat from her forehead with her sleeve, and said nervously. Su Poman opened his eyes, looked at the sun hanging high in the clear sky, then at the two girls, their foreheads covered with sweat. He waved his hand and said, "Go inside. I'm going to take a nap here. Don't disturb me." As Kabir and Ruzu looked on in confusion, Su Poman closed his eyes and began to snore. "Isn't the young master afraid of the sun?" Ruzu whispered. Kabir made a shushing gesture and dragged Ruzu back to the maid's room, whispering, "Ruzu, don't talk nonsense. This may be the young master's habit. We just follow his instructions." Ruzu stuck out her tongue, fanned her forehead with her small hand, and said nothing more. Silence fell inside the room, and the faint sound of snoring could be heard from the courtyard. On the recliner, Su Poman felt the warm energy brought by the sun, and his physical strength continued to strengthen. In his previous battle with Elder Feng, he hadn't actually used his full strength, but after learning about the strength of a 7th-rank warrior, Su Poman could deduce that his current strength was at least comparable to that of a 3rd or 4th-rank warrior. As for his defense, it was hard to say what level of warrior could penetrate it. Su Poman's body now seemed like it was made of fine iron. Not only his skin and muscles, but also his internal organs were incredibly tough. Sharp swords struggled to cut his skin, and heavy blows rarely caused him internal injuries. Every cell in his body absorbed the energy of sunlight daily, constantly strengthening his muscles, bones, blood, and flesh to a terrifying degree. The legendary Grandmaster, capable of shattering swords with ease, was likely only capable of sustaining damage from attacks of this magnitude. However, he hadn't yet cultivated his martial arts. Once he mastered the written knowledge of this world, the Heigang's martial arts would be enough to elevate his combat prowess to a new level. This world was not safe. During my year in Bishan village, I heard numerous rumors. A tiger plague near the other side of Bishan, with ferocious tigers and other beasts entering villages to devour people, and even remote villages being massacred by bandits. Jianghu fights, highway robberies, and bloody clashes were daily occurrences. Strange occurrences were also reported in some desolate mountains and wildernesses, with rumors of haunted houses and secluded areas abounding. Even in the forbidden deep sea, demons were reported to haunt. Consequently, in Pu State, everyone revered the martial arts, and military commanders held far greater importance than civil officials. Tonight, the psychic will send a maidservant to serve you in your dreams. Please remember to use Shenbao promptly, for your own good and theirs. Chapter 19 Guzihank. For a family to have a child who could become a gang apprentice was a source of honor and esteem, drawing the envy of the neighbors. Matchmakers and those offering gifts and connections would flock to the doorstep. The appearance of a martial artist who reached the rank of rank was even more remarkable, with a 3-day feast held throughout the village and a collective fund raised to erect a stone tablet dedicated to the martial artist. Upon seeing the tablet, bandits and other high-ranking bandits would weigh their own strengths, considering whether to provoke a village with a martial artist who had reached the rank of rank. Martial arts tested one's physical talent. Generally speaking, an average person's ki and blood required over 10 years of diligent cultivation to reach the rank of rank. 16 was the standard age for gangs to accept disciples. Because each household's financial situation varied, so too did the physical qualities of their children. Gangs preferred to accept children from wealthy families as disciples, as affluent families meant better food, faster growth of ki and blood, and improved physical fitness, reducing the time spent cultivating ki and blood and increasing their chances of reaching the rank of rank. Once a disciple becomes a gang disciple, they must begin cultivating their ki and blood. Their appetite increases exponentially, and even ordinary families struggle to afford such a high level of food. While the gang provides meals, they only provide enough to fill them up. To cultivate their ki and blood more effectively and rapidly, they must spend money on more precious foods. Beef and mutton are the most basic, but above that, there's also meat from wild beasts and exotic animals, all of which significantly enhance the efficiency of ki and blood cultivation. Furthermore, there are various precious medicinal foods, which are only available to the descendants of royalty or the elders of major sects. A disciple who subsists daily on bread and bran, no matter how talented, can never compare to the sons of wealthy families raised on a daily diet of exotic animal meat. It's difficult for a poor family to produce a noble son. Compared to studying literature, it's even harder for a poor disciple to achieve success in martial arts. Resources are crucial for a martial artist, as important as talent. Su Poman possesses unique advantages. Even without food, simply basking in the sun can replenish the ki and blood consumed during martial arts training. Even warriors have a limit to their daily digestive capacity. Consuming food continuously is impossible, and excessive strain on the internal organs would be detrimental to cultivation. Only after reaching the third-rank warrior realm can one use internal energy to relieve the burden on the stomach and intestines, circulating it to refine and absorb the essence of food. Outside the courtyard, Sun Wei waited silently with an elderly man, resembling a scholar. The elder, Gu Zheng, was a teacher at Songjiang School in Qinglan County. He specialized in elementary studies and was somewhat renowned in Qinglan County. Standing outside a courtyard at the Heigang's headquarters, he was puzzled. Who in the Heigang was seeking him out for grammatical instruction? Looking at the lavishly decorated courtyards before him, which surpassed those of other courtyards, Gu Zheng felt a wave of apprehension. Although he was a prominent figure in Qinglan County, with over 30 years of teaching experience, this was nothing in the eyes of the Heigang. Even the chief clerk in the county government office had to curry favor with the purple-robed elders of the Heigang. He was just a teacher at the academy, and now, invited to the headquarters, he felt a little flustered. He only dared to glance around with his peripheral vision, but he remained upright, ready to be summoned by the important figures within. Although Su Poman had been dozing, his super hearing remained half-activated, allowing him to be fully aware of the surroundings. He yawned, stood up, and stretched. Sun Wei, come in. Gu Zheng heard a young man's voice, and he was curious. Why is he young? He believed that anyone who could live in a courtyard like the headquarters must be a purple-robed elder, a veteran of his own age. Gu Zheng, puzzled, followed Sun Wei into the courtyard. The courtyard was beautifully maintained, with lush bamboo trees and exotic flowers and plants. In the center was a small martial arts arena, where a handsome young man in a white robe sat on a reclining chair. Greetings, Boss Su. I found the teacher you requested. This is Mr. Gu Zheng from Songjiang Academy. He's been teaching elementary school for over 30 years and is very knowledgeable about ancient Chinese characters, Sun Wei said respectfully. Boss, Gu Zheng was surprised. He had never heard of such a young leader in the Heigang. While most of the higher-ups knew about Su Poman's appointment as deputy boss, the news hadn't spread widely, hence Gu Zheng's surprise. Seeing Gu Zheng staring blankly, Sun Wei became anxious and hurriedly urged, Old man, why don't you pay your respects to our deputy boss? Gu Zheng, realizing what he was doing, felt a shudder in his heart and quickly bowed. Su Poman flashed before him, reaching out to support him. Old man, there's no need to be so polite. I'll be in trouble for you in the future. Gu Zheng looked up and was met with Su Poman's sincere smile, which surprised him again. He holds such a position, yet he is able to act this way. He possesses the demeanor of an ancient gentleman, and this boy possesses a high level of moral character. Gu Zheng internally evaluated him and had a favorable impression of Su Poman. With a hint of admiration in his eyes, he said with a touch of respect, You are truly honoring this old man. I am fortunate to be able to work with you, young master. In this era, it was truly uncommon for a warrior to treat a scholar with such an attitude. Boss, the books and study supplies we bought are in the carriage behind us, and they will be delivered shortly. Well, Sun Wei, you did a great job. You may leave first. Yes, boss. Sun Wei bowed and exited the courtyard. In the corridor outside the house, Su Poman ordered Wu Huan to move a set of tables and chairs over. Su Poman said to Gu Zheng, Old master, please take a seat. From now on, you will teach me how to read and write. Gu Zheng was slightly stunned, but replied calmly, I will follow your instructions, sir. I will do my best to resolve your doubts about writing. However, sir, please take a seat first. You are of a respected position and cannot mess up the order. Old master, there is no need to be so reserved. Come and sit down. Su Poman directly pulled Gu's Hunk to sit in the shade, while he sat on the other side, just in time to get some sun. This is absolutely not allowed. Boss Su. How can I let you sit in the sun? Gu's Hunk quickly stood up to make room. Su Poman stretched out his hand, pressed Gu's Hunk's shoulder and said with a smile, Hey Gu Lao, I made this arrangement because I like to bask in the sun, otherwise I would not have moved out this set of tables and chairs. You worry too much? Just sit down and relax. Gu's Hunk sat down with peace of mind after hearing this. He carefully looked at Su Poman's expression in the sun and felt relieved when he saw that he did not see any displeasure. Not long after, a carriage came into the yard, carrying various books. Katir directed Wu Huan and Gao Yu to move them to the study. Ruzu took out the 4 treasures of the study and elementary school books on the carriage separately and placed them on the table in front of Su Poman. After he finished his tea, he slowly said, Gu Lao, let's start. Okay, Mr. Su, let's start. I will start with elementary school classics. The meaning of the first word on the cover is, I am really sorry, fellow Taoists. I came back too late yesterday and accidentally fell asleep. I thought it was updated. Chapter 20, The Art of Waves. Half a year passed in a flash. Under Gu's Hunk's instruction, Su Poman spent 4 months learning the basics of the characters, and then spent another month learning some profound vocabulary and ancient characters. Su Poman's learning ability surprised the ancient master. Knowledge that ordinary people would need a long time to master, Su Poman understood immediately, as if he was a scholar who had studied hard for more than 10 years. He was very skilled in learning characters and books. At the end of the 5th month, Gu's Hunk felt that he had nothing to teach anymore, so he resigned and left. Su Poman gave him 100 or so silver coins as a reward for these months. In addition to basking in the sun in the yard, reading and writing, Su Poman would also try to practice martial arts. After he was able to understand the meaning of the books, he began to practice some martial arts of the Heigang. The Heigang's unique internal martial arts is the Dilingju, typically taught only to martial artists who have reached the 8th rank. It consists of 6 levels, sufficient to support a martial artist to the 5th rank. Ordinary disciples learn the more common Qi Yinguang, which has 3 levels and can reach the 8th rank. As for martial arts, the Heigang's collection consists primarily of Wang rank techniques, while only the elders and the gang leader are qualified to learn Zhuan rank techniques. Su Poman, unpretentious, only learned a low-rank Zhuan rank technique called Jifan Jian. Whenever he has free time, he seeks instruction from Guan Shanhei. Martial arts are divided into 4 levels: heavenly, earthly, mysterious, and yellow. The legendary heavenly rank martial arts have evolved into sorcery, transcending the realm of technique and capable of drawing upon the power of heaven and earth to a small degree. However, in the Pu Kingdom martial arts world, heavenly rank martial arts have long been lost, and the strongest martial arts from the 5 major sects are only at the earth rank level. As for the Dilingju, Su Poman's progress was at a beginner's level, having mastered the 1st level in just a month. This was already extremely rapid. After all, he still didn't fully grasp some of the martial arts terminology and needed to carefully digest the meaning of the techniques. Otherwise, his progress would have been much faster. Furthermore, the Qi and blood training required for practicing the internal Qi techniques took him only an instant of time to complete, and his Qi and blood had already reached the required state. One day, Su Poman sat cross-legged in the sun in the courtyard, slowly circulating the Dilangju within his body. Threads of Qi emerged from the churning Qi and blood. Each time Qi was generated, Qi and blood inexplicably decreased. An ordinary person would have eaten quickly to replenish Qi and blood, but Su Poman, basking in the sunlight, his black iron body replenished any Qi and blood he depleted instantly. Su Poman's body's terrifying recovery ability far exceeded the Qi and blood depletion rate during the practice. Ordinary warriors could only meditate for half an hour daily before their bodies became exhausted, but he could practice his energy endlessly under the sun. Furthermore, because his Qi and blood were so abundant, the speed at which his internal energy was generated was several times faster than that of an average person. Furthermore, his daily practice time exceeded that of an average person by over 10 times, which is why he was able to master the Dilangju so quickly. This mastery of the Dilangju meant that Su Poman's martial arts prowess had now reached the 9th rank. His entire body was stimulated by internal Qi, and his strength had increased somewhat, but compared to his original physical condition, this improvement was minimal. Furthermore, The information on the purple source wheel had also undergone slight changes. Purple source roulette, name, Su Poman, realm, 9th rank warrior, bloodline, black iron body, abilities, light enhancement, supervision, super hearing, energy points. 0, minimum 10 energy points required for a single draw, amount available. 0, click to draw, current draw target, bronze Superman 0.28 per mil. After turning off the purple source roulette's light screen, Su Poman continued to ponder how to obtain energy points. This mysterious roulette was his true trump card, the source of his current formidable strength. Energy points were of immense value to him. He had tried many things, but none had triggered the purple source roulette's indication of energy points. After so much exploration, he finally realized that he had been incredibly lucky to have encountered that island. The jet black ring also came from that strange skull. It must have had its own unique properties, otherwise its owner wouldn't have carried it. In his spare time, Su Poman had previously suspected this was the legendary stored ring. He tried various methods described in novels, such as the blood oath, but found no results. So, he threaded the ring onto a string and hung it from his chest, concealing it beneath layers of clothing. He understood the principle of not displaying wealth. An object of such mysterious origin needed to be carefully stored. He had been inconsiderate to keep it on his wrist. It would be fine if others didn't recognize it, but if someone discerning enough recognized its origin, it would lead to disaster. A powerful figure whose very skeleton contained energy points, the items on his person would surely attract extraordinary covetous beings. Su Poman pondered for a long time, still unable to come up with a clue. He sighed, guess the energy points will have to be discussed later. He continued to cultivate, his Dilangju pulsing continuously within him. Threads of internal energy emerged from his blood and ki, circulating through his meridians for a full cycle before returning to his danshin for storage. Although each cycle only adds a barely perceptible amount of internal energy, with efficient practice, the amount accumulates at an incredibly rapid rate daily. The Dilangju is an internal energy technique modeled after the waves of 1,000 seas. The internal energy generated enhances attack power and also includes internal jin. This is equivalent to a punch with a force of 1 ton thanks to the internal energy. When the Dilangju's properties are activated, a follow-up internal jin of the same magnitude is generated, resulting in a total of 2 tons of force striking the enemy. This internal jin can also be instantly detonated, dealing combined damage. Su Poman's interpretation is more direct, comparing the Dilangju's effect to a double attack in a computer game, or a 100% bonus to critical hit damage. The internal energy generated by the Dilangju possesses a resilient quality. Though soft and wiry, its explosive power can create a cumulative effect. The first level of the Dilangju adds 1 level of internal energy, the second level adds 2, and so on. The Dilangju reaches perfection at the 6th level, representing 6 levels of cumulative energy. When unleashed, this multiplies the power 6-fold, creating an extremely powerful force. Furthermore, each level of the Dilangju significantly enhances the warrior's physical fitness. The internal energy generated by the Dilangju can also be expended in martial arts techniques, creating an effect far more complex than simply adding 1 + 1 = 2. However, Su Poman had experimented with the Dilangju's attacking power, and the internal energy added by the first level wasn't as potent as a physical strike. This was likely due to the technique's low level, preventing it from replicating such extraordinary power. While the effect wasn't as extreme as described, it still provided a modest boost in attack power, making it a worthwhile addition. Once he acquired higher-level martial arts techniques, he should be able to fully unleash his physical might. The speed of practicing internal energy gong is very fast, and you can understand the essence of it completely by your own comprehension, but in terms of martial arts, the progress is extremely slow. Brother Meng, I will add more and ask for monthly ticket rewards to top the list, thank you. Chapter 21 Swordsmanship. The Swift Wind Sword is a low-grade Zhuan-level martial art. If Wan Shanhe hadn't taken the time to meticulously instruct Su Poman, he would have struggled to even begin. His current level is barely above the entry level, barely able to execute it effectively. Martial arts require time to hone. Su Poman's starting point was too high, and he hadn't systematically studied the fundamentals of swordsmanship. He had no knowledge of swordsmanship, so his progress was slow. He needed to supplement his basic knowledge of swordsmanship to more easily master the technique. Although Su Poman possessed inhuman strength and defense, he considered this his trump card and avoided exposing it too often. In the martial arts world, one must learn to conceal one's weaknesses. A few subtle tricks could potentially turn the tide. Therefore, during this period, in addition to practicing the Dilingju, Su Poman primarily focused on the most basic sword techniques. Basic sword techniques include stabbing, slashing, hanging, tapping, collapsing, clouding, wiping, piercing, and pressing. Each posture requires repeated practice, ingrained into muscle memory, to achieve the required mastery of sword techniques. While on Blue Star, Su Poman once read a novel about a supreme swordsman. The protagonist, over 20 years, drew his sword countless times, using the most basic techniques to slay the most renowned swordsman of the time. Countless repetition of these basic movements cultivates a new level of muscular understanding of the sword, much like the meaning of a book learned 100 times. With constant use, the sword becomes an extension of the body, its weight, length, and material mastered with unerring precision. How to apply force and achieve the optimal angle become clear to the mind, akin to divine intuition. With a single slash or a single stroke of the longsword, he can dissipate immense force, transferring the opponent's force from the blade's edge to the tip, whereupon he can then use that force to deliver a diagonal thrust, severing the enemy's foes. The techniques involved are so vast that some people spend their entire lives unable to master a single one, leading to the rise of countless schools. There are fast swords, clever swords, soft swords, heavy swords, Tai Chi swords, cunning swords, and so on. These days, as Su Poman continues to practice the basics of swordsmanship, his love for the sword grows stronger. Although his fists are strong enough to withstand weapons, he feels they lack the coolness and grace to do so. To deliver his enemies with a flash of sword light is to be a roaming knight, a sword immortal. Of course, swordsmanship and sword techniques are merely transitional tools in the early stages. Once he fully develops his superhuman physique, he will naturally be able to subdue anything without external aid. Su Poman practices martial arts during the day, swordsmanship in the evening, and in the dead of night, he secretly cultivates a simple, straightforward, force-based boxing style. The days fly by. Kabir and Ruzu have been keeping Su Poman company during this time, caring for him so comfortably that he doesn't need to think about anything else. As for the responsibilities of the deputy gang leader, he didn't have to take on much. Now that Guan Shanhe was in the front, he would not be needed under normal circumstances. In the evening, Su Poman finished his training and stood up when he heard a report from outside the door. Wu Huan, what's the matter? Su Poman opened his eyes and asked lightly. Wu Huan's eyes were full of respect, and he said in a deep voice, Gang Leader Su, Gang Leader Guan invited you to the main hall tonight to discuss important matters, and has set up a banquet. Now he's waiting for you. I saw you practicing martial arts just now, so I didn't disturb you. Okay, I got it. I'll change my clothes and go. Su Poman stood up and walked into the house. Seeing this, Wu Huan hurriedly left the courtyard. With the help of Kahir and Ruzu, Su Poman changed into a clean and refreshing set of clothes. After leaving the courtyard, he turned to the stone road and soon arrived in front of the main hall. The two blue-robed deacons standing at the door greeted Su Poman immediately upon seeing him. Boss Su, Boss Guan and the elders are waiting for you inside. Su Poman nodded and stepped into the main hall. Candles were already lit inside. Guan Shanhe sat at the head of the table, with 5 purple-robed elders neatly seated below. As Su Poman entered, the chatter ceased, and everyone turned their gazes towards him. The purple-robed elders also rose from their seats. Brother Su, you've cultivated so diligently. No wonder you've achieved so much at such a young age. Come and sit down, Guan Shanhe greeted with a smile. Only after Su Poman took his seat did the elderly purple-robed elders gradually take their seats. I should have mentioned this to you, Brother Su. In a few days, our He gang will be paying tribute to the giant whale gang. I'll be leading the team myself, and you'll be accompanying. I intend to recommend you to the giant whale gang. With your qualifications, it shouldn't be difficult for you to be noticed by the senior members of the giant whale gang, Guan Shanhe explained with a smile, a hint of envy flickering in his eyes. Although Su Poman had heard of their plan long ago, he still managed to look surprised. Oh? Brother Guan, this giant whale gang is one of the 5 major sects, the one famous for its Bibo divine art. That's right. It's the giant whale gang, one of the 5 major sects. If you can successfully join, your future will be limitless. Rumor has it that there are grandmasters of the 2nd rank warrior realm within the giant whale gang, And the gang leader is also a great master of the third-rank warrior realm. If you go there, you will definitely gain better martial arts resources and be able to go far in the future. Guan Shanhei said this, patting Su Poman's shoulder firmly with an expression like a village chief looking at the village's only college student. He continued, our He gang will always reserve your position as deputy gang leader. I hope you will make a name for yourself in the giant whale gang. Don't forget the brothers here. Come and have a drink with me when you have time. That's right, that's right. Gang leader Su is a martial arts genius. He will definitely make a name for himself in the giant whale gang. And make a name for himself, Feng Changleo said with a smile. Although the other four elders didn't know Su Poman very well, they also spoke up and echoed his praises. Su Poman stood up, looked at everyone seriously, and bowed with both hands. He said, I will never forget your kindness. If I can ascend to the sky, I will definitely repay the He gang. Everyone's faces lit up with joy at these words. They didn't take them as empty words. They had recently learned about Yao Dashan's family's affairs and knew that Su Poman was the kind of person who would repay a favor. Boss Su is truly a man of his word. Come, bring some wine. Tonight, I'm not going to leave until I'm drunk with you. Boss Su is a man of integrity. Today, I declare that you will always be the deputy boss of the He gang. I will accept you at any time. A banquet was set up in the hall, and everyone toasted Su Poman with one glass after another. During this time, Guan Shanhei discussed the details of the tribute to the giant whale gang. Once everything was finalized, Guan Shanhei began to drink. The next day, after Su Poman regained consciousness, he showered and walked out of the headquarters, heading west along the block. This area, near the He gang headquarters, was a prime residential area in Kingland County. Those living there were either wealthy or privileged, and their families were all very well off. Ever since Yao Dashan's family was brought to Kingland County, they had felt like they were in a dream. Not only did they own a large courtyard in the county's renowned wealthy neighborhood, but Yao Dashan himself was also assigned a sinecure position in the He gang's internal affairs office, where he could go whenever he wanted and receive a generous monthly stipend. Hua was sent to Songyang School, where Mr. Guda personally taught him to read and write. A He gang steward named Wu arrived bearing gifts, saying that once Hua turned 16, he could be sent to the He gang as a direct disciple of the purple-robed elder. Thanks to Deacon, a pot of clear wine will bring you leisurely. Disciple, Zia Opo Street number 3 Vest. Disciple, I am the elder of the Big Stick. Disciple, Monster Hunting Team Zhang, Feng Chang, Ping Shiloy and Fenglei Wushan. Book friend 201812072151269228. Myself, Hao Shulin, Desert Z Sheep, Wei Jehahua, can be abandoned. Book friend 150,825,094,300,378. Sheng Shuangad, Miao Bulian Huit, Wulong Fat Foodie, very touched. Milk Tea Muit, Clang 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 Clang, Kang Hai Yimi. Book friend 202005012245122975. Book friend 201903182144244777. Successor of the flower-growing family, invincible second uncle, haven't decided on a name yet, think about it later. Lian Bing, Jing regret years, China Unicom network card. Dark Knight Demon's Eye, Iron Horse Ice River 407, ZK, A Thousand Years of Waiting, Zule 149, Clang Clang 7 Clang 7, Ziang 737, You're Being a Middle School Student Again, Blue Ocean, Booze 501, Min Su, Dawn Forbidden, Look Winter, Rebirth of I Am a Martial Arts Master, and others for their tips and monthly tickets. Thank you to all the Daoists who voted for recommendations. Thank you to the Cute Foodie Boss for visiting. Thank you everyone. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22 Yao Dashan. Yao Dashan sat on the stone slab in front of the door, watching the people coming and going on the wide road in front of him, and couldn't help but sigh. He never thought that his casual behavior at that time would bring him such a generous reward. Now that he suddenly had nothing to do, Yao Dashan felt uncomfortable all over, and some fat had grown around his waist. However, there was no heavy work in the He gang's internal affairs room. Moreover, Even if there was heavy work, he would not be asked to do it. There were people to serve him with good food and drink. At first, he was very uncomfortable, but later, he gradually got used to it. Seeing the increasing smiles on the faces of Hua and his mother, he felt very satisfied. "Brother Yao, didn't you go fishing at Nanhu today?" A familiar voice reached Yao Dashan's ears. He was stunned for a moment, then immediately stood up on the stone slab and smiled innocently at the newcomer, saying, "Brother Su, you're here. Old Liu isn't going today, and it's boring for me to go alone." Yao Dashan's words lost their usual casualness. Because of the huge gap in status, the thought that the person in front of him was the deputy leader of the He gang subconsciously made him feel uneasy. Although he tried hard to avoid this feeling of unfamiliarity, he couldn't help it. "Is my sister-in-law home? Let her cook. I'm going to Dengfeng Mansion in 2 days. Let's have a drink today." As a farewell, Su Poman smiled, walked over, hooked Yao Dashan's neck, and walked into the yard. "I'll be back soon. I guess I went to the river to do laundry." "Brother Su, how long will it take you to get back from Dengfeng Mansion this time?" "I'm not sure yet, but I'll definitely come back when I have time. By the way, no one bullies you in the Internal Affairs office, right?" No, they're very nice to me. It's mainly because of your favor, gang leader Su." "Ha ha ha," Brother Yao always jokes. "If you need help, you can go directly to Elder Feng of the He gang for help. If that doesn't work, send a message to me." "What could it be, Brother Su?" "Kinglan County is the domain of the He gang. I've gained weight lately because I've had nothing to do." After dinner, Su Poman said goodbye and left, returning to his courtyard in He City. He took the opportunity to practice basic swordsmanship before leaving for the giant whale gang. Beneath the bamboo forest. Swish. 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 Swordlight flashed in the courtyard. Su Poman's strength was astonishing, and each strike was accompanied by thunder and lightning, the sound of air ripping through the air echoing incessantly, startling the two maids into hiding in their rooms. While it was a basic sword technique, with the added power of strength, its power was unmatched by ordinary warriors. After practicing for a while, Su Poman returned to his room, showered, changed clothes, and fell into deep sleep. The giant whale gang's headquarters was located in Dengfang Prefecture. Its influence spread across 3 states, and its ranks were teeming with experts. 9th-rank warriors could only serve as peripheral disciples. Above that, 8th-rank warriors were considered inner disciples. 7th-rank warriors were considered elite disciples, enjoying access to enviable training resources. 6th-rank warriors served as deacons. 5th-rank warriors were leaders responsible for suppressing a key resource base. And 4th-rank warriors were elders stationed in the prefectural capital, rarely deployed unless the two factions were at war. While some of the He gang's 300 elite disciples will be selected to join the giant whale gang, a significant number will be ruthlessly eliminated, leaving only those approaching 9th-rank martial artists or those with some talent to become candidate disciples. Guan Shanhei and Su Poman rode at the front of the group, followed by several blue-clad deacons, 50 blue-clad disciples, and finally the 300 red-clad disciples. The blue-clad disciples were selected for their relative youth and talent, virtually guaranteeing admission to the giant whale gang as peripheral disciples. As for the 300 young men, those who haven't even reached the level of martial artists, they will need to undergo a series of trials within the giant whale gang before deciding whether to stay or leave. The convoy in the center of the group was carrying salt, iron, and other gold, silver, and jewelry, the annual tribute, and was escorted by the others. Within the He gang's territory, everyone was relatively relaxed, as it was their territory and relatively safe. Guan Shanhei's imposing frame, perched atop his black-scaled steed, resembled a mountain. Were it not for the traces of exotic beast blood in his mount, it would surely have crushed him. After a warrior has been tempered with qi and blood, the density of his bones and muscles will increase, and his weight will also increase a lot. Su Poman estimated that Guan Shanhei's tall and strong body must weigh at least 600 kilograms. Guan Shanhei wiped his beard, turned his head and said to Su Poman in a deep voice, "Brother Su, it takes 5 days to get to the provincial capital, and the road is not peaceful. The property we are escorting will tempt some desperate criminals, and every year on the way to pay tribute, there will be people making small moves. Some are people from other gangs who can't gather the tribute and come to rob, and some are gangs from other provincial cities who deliberately choose this time to rob property. If it's a head-on fight, it's okay. With the two of us here, We are not afraid of anyone. We are just afraid that they will poison us or use some tricks, so the journey may be a little difficult." Su Poman nodded to show his understanding, glanced at the long team behind him, and said, "It should be difficult to rob so many people by trickery. Haha, that's right. This time because the giant whale gang wants to recruit a group of new disciples, the escort team has grown a lot. In the past, there was only one purple-clothed elder, 4 or 5 deacons and 20 blue-clothed disciples escorting, and the risk factor was much greater," Guan Shanhei explained. The tribute-paying convoy left Kinglan County in a mighty procession, heading towards the prefectural capital. Because of the large group, Guan Shanhei had brought along several cooks. They stayed in inns where possible, and otherwise camped on the road, cooking meals. This world lacked tall buildings and industrial pollution, and the vegetation flourished with lush vegetation. The weeds and vines along the roadside seemed inexhaustible, growing wildly. Many of their roots and leaves spilled onto the road, crushed layer upon layer by the passing vehicles and horses, emitting a rich, grassy fragrance. Su Poman breathed in the fresh air and stretched, feeling quite comfortable in the scorching sun. The others, however, were less so, sweating profusely from the long journey under the scorching sun. Guan Shanhei retreated to the carriage to cool off, but Su Poman refused to remain inside. During his time with the He gang, rumors of Su Poman's fondness for sunbathing had spread throughout headquarters, and they were all understanding of his idiosyncratic habit. Guan Shanhei was no longer surprised. Every time he asked Wu Huan what Su Poman was doing, he'd mostly get the answer that he was lying in the yard basking in the sun, or practicing in the sun. Guan Shanhei had initially thought he was a spy sent by another organization, but seeing his indifferent demeanor, any suspicions vanished. There were post stations along the official road to the prefectural capital. Beyond Kinglan County, the stations grew increasingly distant, and roadside camping became increasingly common. Once they came across a post station, the best rooms were reserved for the higher-ups. As for the lower-ranking disciples, forget it. If they wanted to bathe, they could only find a nearby stream to rinse themselves during breaks. Chapter 23, Viper Gang. 2 days later, teams from other gangs appeared on the official road. They were all lined up in a long line, with disciples on both sides patrolling on horseback to guard against surprise attacks. Although these gangs knew each other, they would not communicate too much before entering the city. At most, their leaders would greet each other from a distance to minimize the possibility of any accidents. Of course, there are exceptions to everything. Some small gangs or martial arts schools have to move forward in groups, otherwise they are not large enough and it is easy to arouse the bad intentions of bandits. On the way to escort the tribute, any pedestrians or vehicles that attempt to approach the convoy will be cleared away in advance and will not be allowed to pass until the escort team has passed. This is a means of seeking stability. If there is an accident during the escort of the tribute, it will be very troublesome if the giant whale gang blames it. See? Those guys in green ahead are from the Viper gang. This time, their leader, Old Poison Teng Li, is leading them, Guan Shanhei said slowly, pointing to a group ahead. The Viper gang's strength isn't much different from our He gang. They started out in the herbal medicine business and specialize in the Viper Kung Fu and the Silk Hand technique, which are quite slippery. Their members are also adept at using poison. Su Poman looked ahead and saw a convoy of vehicles transporting large crimson wooden crates. The gang members wore green robes, with ornaments dangling from their heads like snake tails. The He gang's convoy was following behind, maintaining a distance of about 100 meters between them. As for the group following behind the He gang, Su Poman recognized it. It was from the Wujiang gang. Guan Shanhei said it was also led by its leader, so he needed to be cautious along the way. Although the He gang and the Wujiang gang were both affiliated with a giant whale gang, the giant whale gang paid little attention to the feuds between these smaller gangs. As long as they pay tribute on time, they rarely interfered. Su Poman, possessing supervision, turned and saw that the Wujiang gang's leader was a ferocious-looking, portly man with a long scar across his face. Whenever he glanced in the direction of the He gang's convoy, his eyes flickered with a fierce gleam, making it clear he was not to be trifled with. Touching the longsword hanging at his waist, Su Poman smiled, thinking, it's fine if they don't use any tricks. If anything goes wrong, I'll be testing the sharpness of my longsword. This longsword, made of tempered steel specifically for Guan Shanhei before his departure, was priceless and could withstand the daily brunt of Su Poman's abuse, making it a truly fine sword. A strange scene had taken over the official road, as if it were a festive occasion, with an endless stream of convoys heading towards Dangfang Prefecture. The giant whale gang has numerous subordinate gangs within Dangfang Prefecture, practically established under their own names. Dozens are willing to pay tribute to the giant whale gang, including several escort agencies and large martial arts schools. Therefore, every tribute-paying period is like the Lunar New Year in Dangfang Prefecture, with a large influx of outside gang members, a mixed bag of good and bad, placing a significant strain on public security. The giant whale gang's headquarters is located within the inner city, so tributes don't need to be paid at the headquarters. Instead, they can be paid at several branches established in the outer city. Different subordinate gangs are assigned to different branches based on their respective territories. The He Gang and the Wujiang Gang, while sharing borders, fall under the jurisdiction of different branches, leading to conflict. If they were in the same branch, their relationship wouldn't have deteriorated so much, as they would have seen each other frequently during tribute payments. A while ago, after Su Poman killed a Wujiang Gang leader, news spread back to the Wujiang Gang. Several elders were furious and wanted to send disciples to investigate the reckless individual who had dared to cross the Wujiang Gang. After much investigation, they discovered that the man who had knocked out the disciples and killed Gongsun Yu that day was none other than the current deputy leader of the He Gang. Deputy leaders, in such factions, are typically experts of the 6th rank martial arts level. This vengeance was difficult to avenge, but the thought of swallowing it was unsatisfactory. Wujiang Gang leader Fan Chengji was also feeling irritated. He stared intently at the He Gang's convoy ahead, his mind racing, thinking of a chance to inflict harm on the He Gang, a way to vent his anger. Although he had brought 2 elders with him on this trip, even 2 7th rank martial artists combined were no match for a 6th rank warrior, making open revenge impractical. Since a head-on confrontation wouldn't work, Fan Chengji considered recruiting other gangs as allies to counter the He Gang's aggressiveness. This matter required careful consideration, so he summoned the 2 elders to the carriage to discuss the plan. Ahead, over a hill, a riverside post appeared. It was already surrounded by members of the Viper Gang. Seeing this, Guan Shanhe rode forward to negotiate. "Old poisonous creature, come out now. Give me and my brother Su a couple of rooms to rest," Guan Shanhe shouted from the front of the Viper Gang. His imposing manner, coupled with his towering figure, intimidated the young Viper Gang members, who momentarily dared not speak out to stop him. The crowd parted, and a young man wearing a twin snake headdress emerged. His complexion was a sickly pale, and he seemed relatively well-mannered. He first performed a proper junior salute, then said calmly, "You are Master Guan of the He Gang. This post station has already been occupied by my Viper Gang. Please make your own way." "Oh," Guan Shanhe sneered, then declared, "The old poisonous creature has actually trained a respectable disciple. You are Tang Li's direct disciple, right? Why wouldn't he dare come out and let a junior like you speak to me?" The young man with the twin snake headdress's expression turned grim. According to the rules, he had no right to speak to Guan Shanhe, but hearing him address his adoptive father as the old poisonous creature had infuriated him, and he felt like provoking Master Guan with a few words. At that moment, a window on the 2nd floor of the post station suddenly opened, and an old man in a green straw raincoat leaped out. His form shifted several times in mid-air before landing lightly on the ground. His face was old, his skin red and rough, and his neck was covered in what looked like goosebumps. He was covered in small pouches of varying sizes, some tied shut, others open. A faint, eerie black snake's tail could be seen slithering across one of the pouches. "Brother Guan, please don't embarrass my disciple. Please spare one room. We don't have any extras." Tang Li's voice was like glass scraping against a blackboard, hoarse and unpleasant, but if you listen carefully, you could still make out what he was saying. "Old Tang, it's been a while since we last met. Your snake-shaped 100 turns light kung fu has improved quite a bit," Guan Shanhe praised him, then glanced at the 2nd floor of the inn. "I remember this inn had 4 upper rooms. Do you think you can occupy 3? Haha, Brother Guan, think about it. My disciple will have 1, I'll have 1, you'll have 1, and Fatty Fan, who's coming later, will definitely have 1 too. Isn't that enough?" Tang Li's eyes were calm, not at all offended by Guan Shanhe's nickname. He said calmly. Guan Shanhe glanced at the young man in the twin snake headdress before him, then shook his head slightly. "He's an 8th rank warrior at such a young age? Not bad, but he doesn't deserve an upper room all to himself. My brother Su is a master of the same level as us. We can't have the He Gang's deputy leader sleeping on the first floor, can we? Chapter 24 Fatty Fan. Deputy leader of the He Gang. Upon hearing this, Tang Li glanced past Guan Shanhei at Su Poman, who was riding ahead. A hint of doubt flashed in his eyes. Has this young man reached the 6th rank? Su Poman looked to be around 20 years old, a fact that puzzled Tang Li. If it really doesn't work out, could you lend a hand? It just so happens that Brother Su hasn't even fought a 6th rank warrior yet, Guan Shanhei said teasingly, still curious about Su Poman's current level of strength. Tang Li looked at Su Poman deeply, shook his head, and said, I'm an old man, so I'll give you one of the rooms upstairs, Godfather. The young man with the double snake headdress was about to say something, but Tang Li raised his hand to interrupt. Kinger, stop talking. You're clearly lacking in strength right now. Pack up and go sleep on the first floor. Wan Qing's eyes flashed with dissatisfaction. After glaring at Su Poman, he went to the 2nd floor of the inn to pack his things. Brother Tang, long time no see. How are you? A fierce-looking fat man shouted from a distance. Su Poman turned his head and saw that another group of people had arrived near the post station. It was Fan Chengji, the leader of the Wujian gang, who had led a convoy around the slope and stopped at the riverside on the north side of the post station. A smile appeared on Tang Li's old face, and his wrinkles piled up like chrysanthemums. Brother Fan is here too, it's just right. I have already prepared a room for you in advance. Brother Tang is really nice. He will have a drink with you tonight no matter what. Fan Chengji laughed, then glanced at Su Poman on the side and sneered. This must be the new deputy leader of the He Gang. He looks like a young and promising genius. Leader Guan, you are so lucky. It's just that geniuses are prone to early death, so you have to take good care of them. Otherwise, if they encounter any accidents along the way, all your efforts will be in vain. Brother Guan, where did this fat guy come from? He speaks so sarcastically. Is he a eunuch? Su Poman frowned and fought back. He knew that he had offended the Wujian gang and had no intention of showing mercy to the leader of the Wujian gang. It would be better if he could force him to take action. Upon hearing this, Guan Shanhei's eyes lit up with admiration, and he laughed heartily. Ha ha ha, Brother Su, well said. Fatty Fan hasn't married in all these years, so he might indeed be a eunuch. Don't you agree, old poisonous creature? Tang Li stood aside, seemingly oblivious to what he was hearing, his eyes fixed on the situation, his nose focused on his heart, without responding. At this point, any response would offend Fan Chengji, so silence was the best response. However, the Viper Gang members behind him couldn't help but burst into laughter. Only after Tang Li silenced them with a look did they quiet down, leaving only Guan and Su's unbridled laughter. Fan Chengji's face was extremely gloomy, and his whole body was full of momentum, as if a storm was about to break out. Hearing the extremely piercing laughter in his ears, he couldn't help but shout, enough. Guan Shanhei, you, the deputy gang leader, killed one of my hall masters. I will settle the score with you sooner or later. Let's go. And you, wait for me too. After glaring at Su Poman fiercely, Fan Chengji angrily led the 2 elders behind him to the 2nd floor of the post station. Guan Shanhei shouted coldly, Fatty Fan, you only know how to make threats. Back then, your father threatened to kill me, but now it's just fart. He's dead, but I'm still alive and well. If you have the guts, come and fight with real swords and guns, don't fart. Hey, Brother Guan, look, that damn fat guy actually brought 2 grown men into the room. Do you think they have any special fetishes? Su Poman couldn't give this fat guy the opportunity to secretly harm him. He must solve the hidden danger in advance, so he said this. Ha ha ha, indeed. Fatty Fan, it seems you're not only a eunuch, you also like men. Fan Chengji, ascending the stairs, shuddered. His massive fists clenched with a crackling sound. With his teeth clenched, he slammed the handrail. With a crack, the handrail shattered into slag. A tall, thin elder behind him patted him on the back and advised, Boss, a little impatience can ruin a great plan, let's go. I swear, I'll make that little bastard pay, Fan Chengji said fiercely. Su Poman was surprised that Fan Chengji didn't attack. Guan Shanhei approached, patted him on the shoulder, and said, Fat Fan has been around for so many years, he won't be easily provoked. Let's just be careful these past few days. Su Poman nodded and went up to the 2nd floor with Guan Shanhei. The upper room of the inn was quite nicely furnished, with every necessary household item. Once inside, Su Poman ordered hot water to be brought for a bath. After showering, Su Poman cleaned himself and changed his clothes. Just then, he heard Fan Chengji's voice nearby. Using his supervision, he peered through the wall and saw Fan Chengji approach the room of Tang Li, the leader of the Viper Gang. He knocked on the door, inviting Tang Li and his companions to dinner downstairs. Then, the two of them descended together. Su Poman's gaze pierced the space between the first and second floors and saw the large table in the center of the first floor already laden with food and wine. Tang Li and his direct disciple, Wang Qing, took their seats, and the atmosphere was lively. Su Poman was lost in thought when a sudden knock echoed from the door. "Brother Su, Fatty Fan has arranged a drink with the Viper Gang's old poison. Let's go downstairs and join in the fun." Guan Shanhei's voice echoed from outside. "Brother Guan, wait a moment. I'll go down with you." Su Poman lifted his sword, slinging it across his back. He pushed open the door and descended with Guan Shanhei. "That old fellow probably wants to enlist the old poisonous creature to join him in attacking us, but we'll just go down and ruin the plans. The old poisonous creature won't give up until he sees the rabbit, so he won't be easily fooled," Guan Shanhei muttered as he walked. As soon as he descended the stairs, Guan Shanhei burst into laughter. How can I, Guan, be without good wine and good food?" With that, he walked towards the central table. A group of Wu Jiangang disciples gathered around, swords drawn, and barred them from passing. Fan Chengji set down his wineglass, the warm smile on his face vanishing. He stood up and said coldly, "Guan Shanhei, this is a scheme organized by me, Fan. You're not welcome. Go back to where you came from." "Let Guan go? Fatty Fan, I'm determined to drink this wine today." Guan Shanhei's eyes flashed with anger. He took a step forward, and suddenly a tremendous aura erupted from him. The sound of wind created by the surging internal energy made the Wu Jiangang disciples retreat a few steps. Fan Chengji's face sank. He hadn't expected Guan Shanhei to be so shameless as to disrupt the situation, leaving him in a difficult position. "HMPH, I've tolerated you for a long time, not because I'm afraid of you. Brother Tang, if you can hold Guan Shanhei off for me, my Wu Jiangang will cede our territory in Heimu County. Once I kill that brat, we'll join forces to kill Guan Shanhei, and all the tribute from the He Gang will go to your Viper Gang. We'll split the He Gang's territory 30-70, you get 70, I get 30. Fan Chengji reluctantly offered a huge profit to win over Tang Li. Tang Li, dressed in a green robe, was deeply tempted by Fan Chengji's offer, but his eyes flickered with hesitation. He was well aware of Guan Shanhei's strength. He was in the late 6th rank, and his 6 waves fist was incredibly swift and formidable. Chapter 25 Blood Coagulation Pill. Fan Chengji noticed Tang Li's hesitation and urged him, "That kid has already reached the 6th rank of martial arts at such a young age. If he establishes himself in the giant whale gang, it will be our 2 gangs that will lose territory." Tang Li glanced at Su Poman, his mind racing. Guan Shanhei's 6 waves fist is a powerful strike, perfectly countered by my silk hand. In this situation, if I don't lend a hand, Fatty Fan will undoubtedly be defeated by 2 6th-rank warriors. If he retreats, I'll be left with only one opponent. And the Su fellow has reached the 6th rank at such a young age, and his talent is uncanny. If we don't eliminate him soon, he'll become a serious threat in the future." Before Tang Li could make a decision, Guan Shanhei roared and charged at Fan Chengji, clenching his fists. Powered by the Dilingju, his fists rippled like waves, dazzling the eyes. The sheer force of his fists sent the surrounding Wu Jiangang members flying. "Brother Tang, I'll add another blood coagulating pill." With these words, Tang Li's eyes gleamed. With a single wave of his hand, he flung Wang Qing far away, then flew to block Guan Shanhei. "Boss Guan, I'm sorry, but my adopted son still needs a blood coagulating pill to break through." As he spoke, his arm slapped out like a hissing venomous snake, colliding with a powerful fist. The expected cracking sound didn't occur. Su Poman took a closer look and saw that Tang Li's arm, like a boneless spirit snake, repeatedly wrapped around Guan Shanhei's arms, limiting his full strength. At the same time, puffs of green, poisonous smoke emanated from him. What a powerful poison technique! Guan Shanhei quickly held his breath, flipped his palm, and took out an inky-colored pill, holding it in his mouth. Simultaneously, his energy and blood surged through his body, and his body expanded again. Crack, crack, crack. Guan Shanhei's stature suddenly grew 30 or 40 centimeters, his muscles bulging like an ancient demonic ape. His massive fists, like casseroles, stirred up a terrifying roar. It seemed as if a single blow could crush a common warrior's head. Tang Li's expression grew serious, thinking, it seems Guan Shanhei's skills have improved recently. We can't just fight him head-on. We'll have to drag him out and wait for a Fan Chengji to come back to help before we can defeat him. The disciples observing the fight dared not approach. In the corner, Wan Qing's face was filled with joy. If this battle was successful, he could use the blood coagulation pill to break through to the 7th grade warrior realm. The blood coagulation pill was a precious elixir distributed only once by the giant whale gang at each tribute meeting. It was unavailable commercially. Its use greatly stimulated the growth of qi and blood throughout the body, accelerating the generation of internal energy, making the breakthrough much smoother. He glanced at Su Poman, his gaze as if he were looking at a dead man. HMPH, so what if he's talented? He's going to die anyway, Boss Fan, why don't you make a move? At this moment, Tang Li and Guan Shanhei had just exchanged a few moves. Seeing Fan Chengji still hadn't made a move, he quickly warned him. Fan Chengji was surprised that Tang Li was willing to help him, but when he realized what was happening, he rushed forward like a tank, wielding a golden ring knife towards Su Poman. The Wanshan sword technique, shattering slash. The blade flashed like a shadow, its power intensified by the infusion of internal energy. Everyone in the arena looked at Su Poman, who stood motionless, and a collective gasp of surprise echoed. It was clear that they all believed the young man was doomed, that he would soon become a victim of the sword. Slow, too slow. Just as this thought flashed through Su Poman's mind, the blade flashed closer. He shook his head slightly, a mocking expression on his lips, and grabbed the longsword behind him with his right hand. Swish! The longsword was instantly unsheathed, and then he thrust it upwards. Ling! The golden ring knife, empowered by martial arts, collided with a longsword, thrusting upward, creating a shower of sparks. Blocked? He actually blocked the gang leader's strike. That guy's quite formidable. Our gang leader is a late 6th grade martial artist, and he blocked a simple strike with a single blow. How powerful is he? Su Poman felt the force emanating from the golden ring knife, shook his head again, and exerted force with his arm. Bang! A tremendous force emanated from the sword. Upon collision with the golden ring knife, Fan Chengji's right arm went numb. The broadsword flew from his hand, and with a clang, the blade's back slammed into his chest. Fan Chengji's eyes widened, and before he could even scream, the force propelled his massive body forward, slid 6 or 7 meters, shattering a series of tables and chairs before coming to a stop. He raised his head, blood oozing from his mouth, his eyes filled with shock, shaken by the terrifying force he had just felt. The battle between Guan Shanhei and Tang Li also paused at the noise. They were stunned. A 6th-rank warrior would need at least 400 or 500 rounds to defeat an opponent of the same rank, but the crushing result before them left them bewildered. Was this still a battle of equal rank? Brother Su, what's wrong with your strength? Guan Shanhei's eyes lit up with excitement. An extremely unlikely hypothesis suddenly emerged in his mind, but if it were true, it would change his fate. Su Poman looked down at the longsword in his hand, a trace of guilt crossing his face. Sorry, I didn't control my strength well just now. Fan Chengji pushed himself up and snatched up the fallen golden ring knife. The energy and blood in his portly body surged again. Despite his bloated figure, he was incredibly agile and fast, and his face radiated a fierceness that intensified. Having just repelled the enemy, it couldn't dampen the fighting spirit of a 6th-rank warrior. The Wanshan sword technique, Snow Peak's burial, the snow-white blade light burst forth, illuminating the entire hall. The strike carried a terrifying pressure. Fan Chengji leaped into the air, his weight thrusting him forward. Su Poman held his sword level in front of his chest, staring at the blade coming down from above. His lips moved slightly, and 3 words uttered softly. The words were quiet, a touch light and gentle, yet they weighed heavily on everyone's heart. Swift-winged sword, a gentle breeze blew through the hall, ruffling the long hair of several Viper Gang disciples. Immediately, the sword's light followed the wind, tracing a semicircle in midair. Su Poman's internal energy surged through his arm, intensifying the sword's brilliance. Whoosh! The golden ring knife descended, then stopped. Fan Chengji, who was supposed to use the momentum to stop the strike, seemed to be immobilized by a spell, his face filled with surprise. Everyone present looked as if they had seen a ghost. filled with disbelief and disbelief. Boss, you, Fan Chengji listened to the fading screams of the Wu Jiangang disciples. He looked down and saw a long sword lodged in his chest, piercing his heart between his abdomen and abdomen. His golden ring knife, intended to strike downward, was caught between two fingers. His internal energy poured out through the wound, and his strength quickly vanished. His hands loosened, and he fell to the ground with a thud from midair. Only the golden ring knife, intended to strike downward, remained trapped between Su Poman's fingers. What the hell are you? Fan Chengji wasted his words before he died, eyes wide open. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.